Welcome in here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. I'm Nick Sturdivant. Thank you for joining us here on this Wednesday afternoon. I was about to say Thursday, Wednesday afternoon. Thank you guys for watching us. We have a lot to get to, so let's not waste any time. We want to go out now to, I believe we still have this shot, Miami. Well,
we did have the shot.
We did have the shot. Just left. But I want to describe what's happening there in the Miami area. So I want to read, this is from the NBC affiliate there in Miami, NBC 6, South Florida. So the all clear was given after a report of an armed person on the campus of a Miami-Dade school that led to lockdowns and a large police presence on Wednesday, which was unfounded according to officials. Following a sweep of Christopher Columbus High School, after reports of a potentially armed person at the campus, deputies determined there was no threat. And again, that's according to Miami-Dade Sheriff's Office. Deputies have received reports of a potential.
I have video.
We have video?
This is video from moments ago. This is a bit earlier. Mm-hmm. I think this is when they were still surveying the campus. So this is actually like an hour ago. So yeah.
And so deputies have received reports of potential armed person at Columbus and responded to the school to investigate. During the incident, Columbus and three other schools, St. Brendan Elementary and High School and Banyan Elementary, were placed on lockdown. Again, the newest report that we're getting from NBC 6 there in South Florida, the all clear was given after a report of an armed person on the campus at Christopher Columbus High School. That's in the Miami-Dade area. Now you're looking at video there from moments ago. I believe that is St. Brendan Elementary High School area where we're seeing this footage from up high from earlier. But again, all clear given. No threat was actually found there. So as more information comes in, we'll continue to update you here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. All right, so we want to go now to Arizona. We're happening right now. Secretary Kristi Noem is speaking in Arizona. So DHS Secretary Kristi Noem is announcing a major border wall update alongside officials from U.S. Customs and Border Protection, aka Border Patrol, and ICE and other officials. Let's take a listen into what Secretary Noem is saying.
But it absolutely crushed them and their economy, and their crime was rampant and overrun. And just last week, or a week or so ago, I got to spend some time in Brownsville, Texas, spent some time with farmers and ranchers. And we talked about what their lives were like just a little over a year and a half ago. How they saw trespassers come onto their property, cut their fences. Their livestock were loose, and sometimes they incurred death there as well. They had crimes, people breaking into their homes and their facilities. They were finding dead bodies on their ranches. In fact, we saw unprecedented death from those illegal migrants that were coming into our country because of the heat exhaustion, and they also were forced into water, and people were drowning because of the crush and the push to take advantage of those open border policies. Those ranchers were talking about how different it was for them now. The fact that their ranches are safe again, that they don't have drug cartels running drugs across their property and down their roads and endangering their children and their schools. Many of the schools in many of these communities had to put up barriers and protections and boulders and rocks just between the roads and their schools to keep their children safe so they could go in and out and get their education in a way that would protect their lives. When things like this happen, people are not just challenged with the crime, but they're challenged with the fact that their economy is hurt, their businesses are hurt, and also that these illegal migrants were being victimized each and every day. At worst, illegal aliens threatened the lives of American citizens with crime and violence and drugs, but they brought with them a recognition that the rule of law didn't matter in America anymore, that laws weren't going to be enforced, and it sent a message around the world that people could just come to America and no one was going to do anything about letting those dangerous individuals come in with terrorists, suspected terrorists and criminals that were allowed to come in with those illegal migrants. And while the left tries to tell us many times that it's somehow compassionate to allow that kind of chaos, it isn't. It was dangerous, not just on this side of the border, but on the Mexican side of the border as well. We saw many of those illegal migrants not be able to survive the brutal terrain. They didn't survive the river crossing. Those causes of death, of heat and water, were dangerous, and the left behind so many bodies that in some counties along the border, they had to install migrant morgues just to pick up the dead bodies that were passing away on their way to try to get into the United States. In fact, during the Biden administration and those open border policies, we saw even the UN declare that the United States and Mexico border was the deadliest land route in the world. Countless people were sexually abused and trafficked over and over again and exploited. One story that I remember that impacted me so dramatically was a horrifying story of a father who paid a smuggler $1,000 to bring his wife and his 2-year-old daughter into the United States. Once they got over the border, those smugglers took that mom and daughter into a stash house and kidnapped them and held them hostage for a ransom and said that father would not get them back unless he paid another $23,000 to them, and said if he did not immediately pay, that they would do things to his daughter that he couldn't even imagine. That was happening on a daily basis because of that invasion. Over those 4 years of chaos and destruction and death, many of the left said that it was compassionate. They said it was compassionate to let millions of people come in unvetted and be subjected to murderers and smugglers and cartels and gang members. Was it compassionate to make Americans share their communities with criminals? Was it compassionate to encourage men and women and children to break the law and to put their lives at risk, knowing that they could be victimized along the way? And was it compassionate to demonize those federal law enforcement officers that took an oath to uphold the law and to keep Americans safe? You know, the left and Democrats dare to harass, threaten, and dox our officers, assault the men and women of the Department of Homeland Security and our federal law enforcement. And they try to say that enforcing our immigration laws and arresting and deporting illegal criminals and violent criminals is inhumane. Well, what about the victims of that illegal crimes? What about the flow of drugs that were coming over our border and killing our next generation of Americans? What about the Angel families who lost someone that they dearly love, that they'll never have back again and don't have a future with? They don't talk about the Laken Rileys, the Jocelyn Nungrys. They don't talk about the Rachel Morans. And they don't talk about the thousands of Americans that we've lost to drug overdoses and to poisonings. In fact, the flow over this border of illegal fentanyl has been cut in half since President Trump has been in office. And since he has secured this border and built this wall, 56% of the fentanyl has stopped coming into our country and saved millions of lives. The Democrats and the left say that compassion was that invasion, was that humanitarian crisis. But President Trump says that compassion is taking care of people. Joe Biden and his policies during those 4 years lost 450,000 children. Many times they placed them with sponsors that abused them, that trafficked them. The government paid people to take our children and to traffic them. Since President Trump's been in office, we've located 145,000 children that were lost, and we're not going to stop till we find every single one. Because of President Trump's leadership and his bold action, this country keeps breaking historic records. In fact, we have the lowest crime rate in this nation right now because of President Trump and his strength and securing our border that we've ever had in the history of this nation since we've been tracking crimes. The lowest murder rate that we've ever recorded in this country. And that's because we enforce the law and we hold criminals accountable for what they do to perpetuate violence against the American people. In fact, for the last 9 months, the Border Patrol has released 0 illegal aliens into the interior of the country. It's incredible, the work that they do every day. And that's what happens when you fight for law and order. Overall, Customs and Border Protection has recorded the lowest number of encounters in the agency's history in 2025. Daily encounters have fallen by 95% over the last year. While the daily average of apprehensions in the Biden years was over 5,100 per day, in the last year, it was less than 250. In addition to keeping the illegal aliens out, we're also protecting the American people from the deadly drugs that are coming in. And just in 2025, CBP seized over 600,000 pounds of illicit drugs. The death rate and the fentanyl deaths in this country have dropped in 1 year under President Trump. Because he secured the border, fentanyl deaths have gone down 30%. We can't wait to continue to keep working to save more American lives. We have to continue to keep ramping up our efforts and do all that we can to protect our children. And we're thankful for President Trump's vision to invest in technology, invest in people, and invest in the resources that we need to do our jobs. He did it in 1 year. And you think about what this country has gone through over the previous 4 years and what a turnaround that we've seen because we have a president in the White House that puts the American people first. It's incredible. President Trump believed that we still have a country, and he believed that it was a country worth fighting for. Now we're hard at work to make sure it stays that way. And when the American people put President Trump in the White House, they said enough is enough. They chose him, they chose law and order, they voted to build the wall, they voted to send President Trump back to the White House. And it reminds me of John Adams. He said back in history, when they were building this country and founding this country, he said the very definition of a republic is a government of laws, not of men. We are a government of laws. We are a republic. And for 4 long years before President Trump, we saw what it was like when people put men above our laws. We saw how people were victimized and hurt and abused. And Americans didn't want to live like that anymore. The beauty of our republic is that our people have the freedom to choose. And when they elected President Trump, they chose differently. They chose someone who recognized that a country with no border is no country at all. A country that doesn't enforce its laws is a lawless country. We had never experienced the kind of chaos before in recent history that we saw during the Biden administration. And the American people rejected it. They rejected it and its lawlessness and chose to return to law and order. And with President Trump and all of you great law enforcement officers in front of me and those across the country that do their work every day, we've got a promise of a bright future and a promise of an amazing country for years to come. You have stood up and stood on the line to make sure that we have freedom and liberty for our children and our grandchildren for years to come. Thank you for the work that you do. I pray every day that God will continue to bless you. Bless the work that you set your hands to and your families. They'll continue to bless this great country so that we would know that we are all Americans and we're all here. The rest of the world follows America because we are the ones that provide the hope and the future for what the entire world should be. So may God bless you, and thank you so much for being the great Americans that you are. Thank you.
So like the Secretary said, and the Commissioner as well, we're celebrating the monumental control that we've got over the border. But in doing that, our main purpose here is to thank you, the men and women of CBP and DHS that are getting the job done. We can provide you all the policies, the money, the protection, the coverage, but you have to go out there and deliver on it. And so I know that most of us say we don't need to thank you, we don't need an award, but it brings me great pleasure to be able to give an award. It gives me extreme pleasure to be able to do it in a sector that played such a huge part in my career and my development as a leader. And so with that, if I can have Agent Jack Gamblin step up. So today, Jack Gamblin is going to receive the Newton Eisendrath Award. I'm going to read to you why he's receiving that award. On June the 19th of 2024, Border Patrol Agent Jack Gamblin was critical in the apprehension of a Tucson homicide subject who shot at himself and other law enforcement officers in the Bryan Terry Station's area of operation. Responding to the area, Gamblin found the suspect vehicle speeding his direction while the suspect was firing at Agent Gamblin. Despite no cover and little to no concealment and at great risk to his personal safety, Agent Gamblin retrieved his service rifle, squared himself off to the threat, and returned fire, neutralizing the threat. BPA Gamblin's exceptional courage and action went above and beyond the call of duty, reflecting the highest credit upon himself and the United States Border Patrol. Agent Gamblin, if you can come over. Agent Fleming. And Agent Gundry. Agent Fleming and Agent Gundry will also be receiving the Newton Nasdaq Award. On Thursday, February the 20th of 2025, Border Patrol agents Brandon Fleming and Bryce Gundry witnessed a devastating head-on collision that resulted in both vehicles being engulfed in flames. At tremendous personal risk to themselves, they selflessly dove into the wreckage, pulling the trapped civilians to safety and ultimately saving their lives. BPA Fleming's and BPA Gundry's actions, heroic actions, exemplify the core values of the United States Border Patrol and stand as a testament to their courage, selflessness, and unwavering commitment to protecting others. BPA Fleming and BPA Gundry went above and beyond the call of duty. Their bravery brought great credit upon themselves and the United States Border Patrol.
Sorry. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Got it?
All right, that's going to conclude the ceremony for today. I know that some of you are going to stick around for some pictures afterwards, but outstanding work. Again, nothing brings me greater pleasure than coming back home. I was driving down here passing Rancho La Migra, and I'm like, man, this brings back some memories. Passing the I-19 checkpoint, got many loads with K9 Jarno up there, and then these hills. I remember when we had no wall down here, right? And I went to the checkpoint for about 6 months, and I come back down here, and I couldn't recognize the place anymore. I got lost, right? And so hopefully you all get lost as we continue to build the wall. Anyway, thank you very much, and again, we really appreciate all the hard work you guys are doing. Outstanding work. 2026, here we come. All right.
Sam put your name at the top of his list and a statue.
All right, so that is Secretary Kristi Noem there in Arizona, speaking on border enforcement there with Border Patrol officials, ICE officials there. It looks like that is wrapping up as they're shaking hands and ending this press conference. We want to come back here at home, and we want to take a quick break. We'll be back here in just 2 minutes here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. Welcome back here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. I'm Nick Sturdivant. All right, so it is. I'm excited. I was about to say it's an exciting time, but not really an exciting time. I'm excited because it's kind of warming up outside a little bit.
It's a little bit. It's better.
It's a little warmer.
Yeah.
It feels like a day at the beach compared to where we were, where you're talking about single digits.
Right.
Teens.
You couldn't go to your car without a coat now. Now,
Oh,
like I have a
man.
blazer on, like I was fine to do
Oh,
at
my
least
God.
walk to my car.
And all this stuff is just on the roads and the sidewalks. Just
It's
just
slushy,
it's
it's
slushy.
gross, it's
but a lot of it's
dirty.
just it's dirty. Yeah, snow becomes
It's
after
dirty.
it becomes dirty, but it's melting away.
Yeah.
I mean, it's going to be a completely different weekend than what we had this past weekend coming up because it's only going to get hotter, warmer, I should say,
It's gonna be 60
warmer.
degrees
It's
next
gonna be
week.
60 degrees, Carlene.
I'm pumped.
That's really going to help. That's a live camera look coming in from Kannapolis. This is our WCNC Tower Cam. No sunshine in the forecast today, unfortunately. We will just continue to see that cold rain scatter across the area from this morning, getting increasingly more widespread as we head later into the day. Tomorrow is going to be another cloudy day. Temperatures really going to be cool, only rising to about 40 degrees. And then Friday will be the day that we'll have to watch for those cold morning temperatures that could lead to some refreezing. Again, we are looking at scattered showers across the area today, very, very isolated by tomorrow, and then we're dry all throughout our weekend, then a small chance for a few spotty stray showers on Tuesday. Here's our Doppler radar. You can see the heavier bands of rain to the south of Charlotte. A little bit of mist out there and drizzle this morning as well. This is not widespread rain, at least not quite yet, and really even into the later half of the day, I don't think there'll be any time where it's going to be heavy downpour rain or anything in that regards. We have cloudy skies across the Carolinas with quite a bit of rain continuing to move from the southwest to the northeast, and you can see those temperatures. They're going to continue to stay above freezing, so we like that, especially if you're somebody who's ready for that snow to go away. Here's about 5 o'clock tonight, right around dinner time or so, maybe by the time you're coming home from work. Again, 40s for most of us, a little cooler as we're heading up north, but notice by 10 o'clock tonight, those temperatures for our mountain counties, they'll start to drop just a bit, just below that freezing mark. So if we still have that moisture out there, we could see a bit of snow starting to fall. It would be north of I-40, and then that rain starts to wrap up nicely for us. By the time we're waking up tomorrow, again, it's going to be chilly, but not extremely cold. We're not talking about another blast of that cold Arctic air. A cloudy Thursday ahead, but overall our temperatures tomorrow, not too impressive, only rising into the lower end of the 40s. Current temperatures, we are at 40 degrees in Lincolnton, 48 for our good friends out there in Rock Hill, and 46 right here in the Queen City. You can see the parking lot there, kind of a weird camera to have, but just wanted to give you perspective that snow is slowly starting to melt, and with that rain today, that's really going to help. 35 is what it feels like up in Boone, so not much of a wind chill. Yesterday we topped off at 46 degrees, and today you can plan for the exact same as we're heading into the rest of our day today. Here's our hour-by-hour forecast. So this morning, really, we haven't seen much rain here in Charlotte. The little better chances as we're heading into the afternoon, really between about 3 and 5 o'clock this afternoon and into tonight. But overall, just a whole lot of cloud coverage. Up in the mountains, 41 degrees for your high temperature there in Banner Elk, 40 for our good friends there in Blowing Rock, 43 in Boone. Once we're heading south just a bit, low 40s from Hickory to Maiden, 46 there in Morganton. Much of the same from Gastonia to Shelby, 45 in Statesville this afternoon, and 48 there in Lancaster. So still seeing below average temperatures by tomorrow. Look at our daytime highs, only about 40 degrees under cloudy conditions, only a small chance for a little bit of rain. And then Friday morning, I think that's going to be the bigger concern. 25 degrees heading out the door, so any moisture that didn't evaporate could quickly freeze over, especially on bridges, on and off ramps, that sort of thing, or any of that snow or ice that hasn't completely melted over. And then this weekend, look at us go. Saturday will be gorgeous sunny skies with a high of 50 degrees. And again, overnight lows tonight dropping down right around freezing. Here's our Jerry Hunt Supercenter 7-day forecast. Overall, a cloudy day, a good day to kind of hunker down. 46 degrees is all we're climbing to. We should be at 54. Overnight lows tonight, 31 degrees heading out the door tomorrow with a high of 40. And then again, this upcoming weekend, I think Saturday would be a great day to get outside outside, get some fresh air. It's going to be beautiful. Of course, the Super Bowl on Sunday, if you want to do anything before the game, good mix of sun and clouds with a high around 45. And then the big story next week will be the return of 60-degree temperatures, above average temperatures, kind of giving us a little bit of a taste of spring.
All right, and we're going to head to break. We'll be back here in just 2 minutes here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. Welcome back here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. I'm Nick Sturdivant. All right, so we've been talking about this for over a month now. The House Oversight Committee hearing that was set to happen has been postponed at least twice. Now it's set to happen Monday. We're talking about North Carolina General Assembly. I want to read a letter that was directed to Gary McFadden, Sheriff Gary McFadden, Mecklenburg County. Just a piece of that letter. So it says, in your role as sheriff, please be prepared to discuss your office's role in ensuring public safety throughout the city of Charlotte, Mecklenburg County, including on CAT. So they actually wrote it out, Charlotte Area Transit System. Please also be prepared to discuss strategic plans, spending, DEI initiatives, and other topics as appropriate. But it's not just Mecklenburg County Sheriff Gary McFadden that's testifying. Also, Charlotte Mayor Vilaus. Correct me if I'm wrong, Julie. Am I missing somebody else too that's supposed
I'm
to be?
actually going to pull up the list. 'Cause
It's a long list.
So Gary McFadden, Mayor Lyles, City Manager Marcus Jones, Interim CAT CEO Brent Cagle, District Attorney Spencer Merriweather, CMPD Chief Estella Patterson, who notably was not chief at the time that this happened, just for context. But yeah, basically all of your major officials from Charlotte, Mecklenburg County are going to be called to talk.
And by the way, before I let Julie continue, she will be there covering that hearing on Monday. So take it away, Julie.
Yeah, they pushed it back twice. I was like, why do you guys have to pick the Monday after Super Bowl Sunday? I would have liked to be here to watch that, but that's okay. That's fine. That's a personal gripe that I have, but that's fine because it is very important.
Yeah.
And the reason, though, it's been getting pushed back is because they're trying to figure out what they can and cannot address. So this House Oversight Committee run by mostly Republicans, is going to be asking questions about public safety in Charlotte, specifically after the murder of Irina Zarutska. And that has brought up a lot of questions about public safety on the light rail, on public transit here, safety in general in the city. That's why they called the CAT CEO to come talk. But this is a larger issue, and it's also wrapping into the fact that we still have an ongoing criminal case to deal with. So Republican lawmakers have requested access to the criminal file. However, a federal judge said essentially that's going to impede suspect DeCarlos Brown Jr.'s right to a fair trial potentially, because this is going to be, publicly discussing this information.
Open up the can of worms, basically.
Basically, yeah. Before they actually get to, figure out how that trial is even going to look, because those processes take a very long time, and it could, of course, impede people's opinions about the case. However, they are still pushing back on that because they want to have all the information that they can get to bring to Charlotte officials as they decide where the legislature goes from here. And we'll get back to that because, of course, they've already done some stuff. But now a district attorney says, a district judge says that they will look into this. And they have a hearing the Republican lawmakers are going to talk to a different judge to discuss moving forward with this potentially. But that's not going to be till after the hearing. And so Monday is going forward as is. They do not have access to those files that they want. There's still plenty to talk about. A lot of this information is already public. We've reported on quite a bit of it. I know that obviously they're going to have the sources right there. They're going to have the police chief and the mayor, people who are very involved in this process and are privy to some more information that we, the public, probably are not privy to. But it is going to impact, I think, what they are and are not allowed to say, which was going to be interesting. They're all good to go for Monday. They're going to keep going with it. It'll be interesting to see what happens because they're hearing to get access to that files on Wednesday. And so this won't end after Monday. It's kind of just the beginning. But as I mentioned, we have Irina's Law already. And so we have already seen some decisions made from the General Assembly. Now that they're going back into a longer session, I'm curious if this hearing is a sign that maybe there's more legislation coming.
Yeah, I was about to say, what do they hope to accomplish with this? Because Irina's Law is already passed. Is it, I guess that's my question.
Why?
Why? Yeah, why?
Good question. And that, I think, is a question that we've seen raised by some of the people called. I mean, Sheriff Gary McFadden was in this seat last week
We
saying,
talked to him several times because it keeps getting pushed, and Jane keeps asking him kind of again, like as a refresh, like, okay, it's been pushed, okay, it's been pushed. So we have plenty of sound if anybody's interested to hear what Gary McFadden
I'm using
wants
some
to
of it
say.
today.
Yes.
But
we've got it.
One of the things that he said is, I'm not sure why essentially we were called. Of course, I'm paraphrasing, but he's like, we don't respond to 911 calls. That's not what the county.
Right.
That's not what the sheriff's
what they
deputies do.
Right.
They have a very different role. They are, of course, more directly impacted by something like Irina's Law as someone who has to oversee the jail system here. And so I think that his questions the questions that are directed at him are probably going to be more along that line, if I had to assume. But that's a very good point that he did not directly respond to this incident right after it happened. And again, DeCarlos Brown Jr. is an American citizen. He is someone who has been in the justice system before, but when we talk about Irina's Law and we're talking about some of the other law enforcement things that our legislature in the state here has done, it revolves more around immigration enforcement. Whereas we haven't seen so much from the State House, the General Assembly, in terms of mental health resources and the lack of psychiatric beds. We have seen some of that conversation in different committees. I'm wondering if that's kind of the direction that this committee might go in terms of what can we do now. But it also might end up being Charlotte, if they decide Charlotte's got issues, how can we cut funding to Charlotte as opposed to how can we help Charlotte? It's going to be interesting,
Yeah.
I think, from just someone sitting there to see which direction they go in. I know, excuse me, I just tapped the mic. I spoke to some council members. I don't know if that was really loud for everyone listening. I just spoke to some council members who are, hopeful, but they're also like, yeah, we do need some help. We've made some progress, but in order to get that help, we need more funding from the state.
Not less funding.
Yeah, not less funding. We still don't have a state budget,
Yeah.
and so that's a conversation that we're having hopefully soon. Which direction they go, I'm not sure.
Now, another chapter in that interesting relationship between Raleigh and Charlotte. When I say
Messy.
Raleigh, the General Assembly and Charlotte. It's been there for a while. Yeah. I guess my last question before I let you go, Julie. This is just a one-day thing because there's a lot of people on that list set to testify, and I'm sure these are not going to be 10-minute testimonies.
I'm scared, guys.
It's gonna be a
what time
hefty
of day
all day
I would
thing.
think.
I know,
Right?
I'm
You're
getting
calling
that.
that many people over
Because usually
there.
the lawmakers are out of there by 5.
Yep.
And they are supposed to, and I was just chatting with council members seeing who's going, because they're not called to testify, but I know like Malcolm Graham is going to be there just
Yeah.
listening in, especially him, someone with experience in
Yeah, General Assembly, yeah.
Right, in the
yeah.
General Assembly. But some other ones are like, we have a council meeting later that day. Don't know how long this is going to go, but the General Assembly, both the House and the Senate, are supposed to meet in full that day. And so it's scheduled for 10 a.m. That usually is not what happens anyway. They meet
Right.
just to say we're coming back later. But they're supposed to get other things done that day, and so it can't be a whole day affair. I don't know.
And Charlotte City Council meeting, that's a 2.5-hour drive from Raleigh to Charlotte.
That's a long day. And Mayor Bylaws has to be there, of course, for the council meeting.
Yeah.
So
And Councilman Graham, if he's
Yeah.
going to be in Raleigh. So interesting to see how it plays out. Again, Julie Kay will be there covering it. One last question, I promise, but this is more of a logistic question because it's just fascinating story.
Yeah.
Will we be able to see what happens live inside? Is this a public thing?
yeah. it
Okay.
is. They are very good about streaming
Okay.
in general, but like of course we'll be there with a
Yes.
camera. But they actually stream
The General Assembly is good about streaming,
Okay.
streaming these things.
For the public, I just want to
Yes.
make sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
well, I imagine that starts at 9 a.m. Monday. I imagine we'll have a good chunk of it at
Sure.
least here in the Live Impact studio.
They're here or on our secondary streams.
Yeah.
It'll be up somewhere.
Yep.
And I'm sure Julie will give us updates. I'm just going to put it on you.
have a
4,
lot to
5, and
say.
6 on Monday. But
Yeah.
for the preview, make sure you tune in at 4 and 5 this evening. Julie Kay, interesting story. Another twist in this story.
As always.
As always, covering all things politics. Julie Kay, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
All right, let's head to break. We'll be back here in just 2 minutes here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. Welcome back here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. I'm Nick Sturtevant. We want to go now to Washington, D.C., where Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent is in front of the House Financial Services Committee for a hearing titled The Annual Report of the Financial Stability Oversight Council. Let's take a listen in.
Thanks for being here today. Appreciate all the work that you've done, and certainly look forward to working with you in the future. I did have just a couple questions, though. In many ways, the CSEs are far less risky than they were before the financial crisis. And one of the reasons has been that the CSEs, that credit risk transfer, the CRT piece, those programs. However, some industry experts are concerned that the CRT program have been significantly diminished and focus on capital arbitrage instead of the real risk reduction. Can you just kind of in general discuss the importance of the CRT with regard to the CSE in ensuring that they're transferring a significant amount of credit risk to the private market and really are then avoiding the risk that the taxpayers take on?
Good. So the CRT, or the credit risk transfer, is very important at FSOC and the attendant agencies, the members. We closely monitor to make sure that there is no daisy chain effect, that the quality of the risk transfer is at least as high as the entity from which it was bought. What we saw in the GFC was a complexity can create a daisy chain. So what we want is transparency. But I think CRTs are very important, but they cannot be opaque.
Very good. You called for, you originally called for kind of a fundamental reset of financial regulation, and then you emphasized.
All right, so we want to shift away from that, and we want to head now to South Carolina, where we are continuing to track the measles outbreak. Cases continue to climb. According to DPH, Department of Public Health there in South Carolina, of the 876 confirmed cases, 233 involved children under the age of 5 years old. Let's take a listen into that virtual press conference that's been happening weekly with the updates. Let's take a listen in.
Doses in people who had previously injected vaccines.
Okay, so several questions there. I think your first question is asking, what did we actually see in the upstate in general for uptake?
Yeah,
is that your first question?
You offered the state, you offered state and Spartanburg. I'm just wondering what did you see in upstate in that broader region, just in terms of numbers, if you have those.
We can provide that number
Okay.
after we get off here. Don't have that right in front of me.
Can you characterize who was getting those vaccines? Where did you see the increases?
And we do have some of that information by age group, which we can also report to you later.
Okay, I'm more interested in were these people who had previously received one vaccine versus and parents were like catching up their kids or getting an extra vaccine, like if your child is it has one shot at the 1 year and they're due for the 4 year, are they getting it early, versus are these people who have decided that they really want to get their kids vaccinated because the outbreak and previously had a different view on this? Yes.
Well, with the aggregated data that we have of hundreds of doses, we're not able to comment on what the vaccination status for each person who got vaccinated, whether that was the first dose, a second dose, or whether it was somebody who may have been previously vaccinated but didn't have documentation of their vaccination status. So with our aggregated numbers, with these hundreds of doses that we're pleased to report about, I'm not able to comment on what is the actual status of those numbers of people who did receive their vaccines.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Dr. Bell. And Julie, I'll follow up with you after the call on some of those numbers. And Joseph?
Hi, thank you for taking another question. A follow-up on the 95% vaccine coverage. Is that specifically just in Spartanburg County, the larger upstate region, South Carolina as a whole?
Well, that is our goal, to achieve herd immunity for the population as a whole. I mean, it is that level of vaccination coverage that helped this country achieve measles elimination. So that is a goal overall here in South Carolina, and that is a goal nationally, that we can maintain that high vaccination coverage that we saw 20 years ago that allowed us to eliminate ongoing transmission of measles. So that is not just for Spartanburg County or the upstate. We hope to achieve that goal statewide and nationwide.
Thank you. Tanner? And Tanner, you may be muted.
Sorry about that. I wanted to know the age range of the new cases that were reported on Tuesday.
We do not report on the demographics of individual cases. So I understand you're asking about the age range.
Yes.
I do not have that information available, but I'm sure we can make that available for the age range of the total number of cases reported.
Okay. Does the DPH track cases of medical complications related to the measles?
We do not have access to that being systematically reported to us. We work with healthcare facilities to attempt to learn about the complications that may be a consequence of measles infections.
And those adults who should possibly consider a measles booster for adults?
Booster doses are not recommended. This speaks to the very high effectiveness of the measles vaccine. If 2 doses are given in childhood on the recommended schedule, 97% of those people will be protected for life. There are some people who may have a weakened immune system or have something that impairs their ability to mount the strongest response. But nonetheless, this is not one of the vaccines for which booster doses are recommended. And so we want to make that clear, that this is why this is one of the best vaccines for protection available, is because that lifelong immunity is achieved without booster doses. And so we just want to reinforce that message of the high effectiveness of this particular vaccine.
Thanks, Dr. Bell. And just as a reminder, we'd like to take one question at a time just so other folks can get a chance to have their question answered. Next is Lauren.
Hi, Dr. Bell. Thanks again for taking another question. I promise this is the last one from me. I just wanted to ask, with the upstate growing incredibly quickly, I think you did kind of answer this, but I just wanted to ask, just in case, are we able to discuss if these cases are mostly people who have moved to the upstate or really South Carolina, or have we seen them more so the people who have grown up here or locals, so to speak?
In our investigation of cases, we don't collect information about duration of residency in that area, and so that's not information that we have about the cases.
Okay, thanks so much. Sorry.
Thanks. Allison?
Hi, Allison Young from HealthBeat. Thanks for doing this. During your opening statement, you said that several pregnant women who had been exposed to measles required treatment with immune globulin. Can you share anything more about even just in general, about the circumstances of those exposures and also whether they occurred in healthcare settings?
No, I can't provide any more information about those cases.
Thanks. And Diamond?
Hi, can you hear me? Is my mic working?
Yes.
Okay. Diamond is from WPDE News 15. I was just wondering, with the 3 new cases that were just reported in the PD region, is this gonna provide like a greater threat to the PD region? Like how deep in the region were the cases, and does this just provide a greater concern?
It gives us concern because because the case itself, to our investigation so far, we've not been able to identify a source. So we're uncertain of whether or not there is transmission in a new area, or if this case was actually had visited an area where there known cases are occurring. We have looked into the vaccination coverage in this region as compared to, say, the upstate. And so it is a little bit reassuring that vaccination coverage in the schools in the PD area and in the population in general are a bit higher than they were in a number of schools in the Spartanburg area and in the upstate in general. And so, again, anytime we're in a population of people that have a higher level of protection, there's a lower chance of ongoing transmission. But I want to reiterate that regardless of where you live, if you are unprotected, we continue to encourage people that there can be unrecognized exposures, as we have announced in public settings in the PD area, that that just emphasizes the importance of getting that protection so that people are not at risk of being infected by unrecognized exposures, regardless of where they live.
Thanks, Dr. Bell. Tom?
Thanks for taking another question. I guess you'd have to speak about this generally, but in regards to the pregnant women who received the IgG treatment, could you explain why that's necessary and what the risks are to those women and to their babies from a measles infection?
Yes, administration of immune globulin gives people what we call passive immunity. In other words, we provide the protective antibodies through this immune globulin, as opposed to the body being able to mount its own active immune response. The reason this is necessary is because the measles vaccine is not recommended for pregnant women, and pregnant women are at increased risk of suffering or at a higher risk of suffering complications during pregnancy. Things like preterm labor, other complications with, anything that can affect another organ system. And there's also the risk of transmission to an unborn baby, or with the mother being infected very late in pregnancy prior to delivery and then infecting the infant. So it's very important to offer this passive immunity to pregnant women to protect them against the high risk of complications during pregnancy and to protect their newborn babies.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dr. Bell. Julie?
Yes, thank you. I'm just curious, how are you investigating the cases in the PD area? Are you using whole genome sequencing or something to try to establish whether or not they're related? And are you working with the CDC on that?
The way that we're investigating the case in the PD region is the same as we do for all other cases reported to us, is that we interview the cases to find out what their symptoms were when those symptoms began. That helps us identify and define the infectious period. And then we ask about their activities during the infectious period to help us identify contacts. We look at the sources of infections through these epidemiologic investigations. The genotyping is testing that is performed on measles isolates that are submitted to a lab, and it takes weeks for those results to be returned. The results of genotyping really does not help us much with identifying the source of infections unless there is a significant change in the genotype, which we have not seen from what's circulating in the country at this time. So genotyping doesn't help us with these epidemiologic investigations in real time in helping us identify the source. And our focus is really on interrupting transmission around known cases.
Thank you, Dr. Bell. And we've got one question in the chat from Judy Gatson at WIS. She says, concerns have been reported about inactive measles vaccines being administered between 1963 and 1967. What is the recommendation for those people to ensure maximum protection against measles?
Yes, for people who received a vaccine during that short period of time, That is a vaccine that did not confer as strong immunity as the vaccine that's widely used now. So for people who were vaccinated during that period, we do recommend that you consult with a healthcare provider and find out if you should receive another dose of the currently available measles vaccine.
Thank you, Dr. Bell. And as I said, we have to wrap up at 1:30. It looks like there aren't any more questions. So we appreciate everyone for joining us today. And thank you, Dr. Bell, for your time. If you have any follow-up questions after this call, you're welcome to reach out to our media relations mailbox. That is media@dph.sc.gov. And we'll follow up with you as quickly as we can. Thanks again for joining and have a great day.
Thank you, everyone.
Welcome back here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. I'm Nick Sturdivant. We want to go back to Washington, D.C. We saw this earlier. So the House Financial Services Committee holding a hearing titled The Annual Report of the Financial Stability Oversight Council. Right there testifying is Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent. Let's take a listen to that.
Safe path, don't you agree?
I believe that anyone who has legitimate income, is in the U.S. legally, and is sending money home through gains where they have paid taxes, they would choose the safest path.
Mr. Secretary, unfortunately, the data doesn't show what you suggest. It shows the opposite, and we're encouraging money laundering through these kinds of actions. These obstacles and these taxes are not helping American consumers.
Expired. Appreciate the gentleman from California. I want to thank Treasury Secretary Bessent today for his testimony. Without objection, all members will have 5 legislative days to submit additional written questions for the witness to the chair. The questions will be forwarded to the witness for his response. Mr. Secretary, please respond no later than March 11th to our questions. This hearing is adjourned.
All right, so that just wrapped up. That was Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent. Again, the House Financial Services Committee holding that hearing titled the Annual Report of the Financial Stability Oversight Council. Again, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, who also serves as the chairman of the Financial Stability Oversight Council, testified. That just wrapped up. So we want to head back to Washington, D.C. right now. We're happening live. This is a live look at the Senate floor. Let's take a listen at it.
In the course of the last year, my concerns, sadly, have been borne out. Even before Attorney General Bondi was installed atop the Justice Department, Donald Trump had moved swiftly to purge DOJ and the FBI of senior career law enforcement officials. In their place came partisan hacks, including a January 6 rioter who encouraged his fellow insurrectionists to murder law enforcement officers protecting the Capitol. He was shouting the words, "Kill him," when it came to the police who were defending this Capitol building. That person ended up being pardoned and then becoming part of the Department of Justice staff. Can you believe it? Under the direction of Attorney General Bondi, these MAGA loyalists pounce on President Trump's perceived enemies. In addition to the now dismissed indictments against former FBI Director James Comey and New York Attorney General Letitia James, federal prosecutors have opened criminal investigation into Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell, Governor Lisa Cook, and others. The list goes on and on of the enemies of the president who are being prosecuted by the Department of Justice. Why? Not because they broke a law, but because the president believes they are his political enemies. And it begs the question, if the president can turn the Department of Justice to the FBI into his own personal police force to target.
All right, so that is a live look there, debate happening on the Senate floor. We want to stay in Washington, D.C., and we want to head now to the White House, where First Lady Melania Trump is meeting with American Israel freed hostages. Keith and, or the Seagulls, I should say, they're at the White House. Let's take a listen in.
Have a meeting in New York in January 2025. It was an emotional meeting, and it is captured on camera and available to see in my new film, Melania. It was very emotional. Aviva presented me with 2 of Keith's books, and when I came home that evening, I gave it to my husband and informed him the situation, and I know he was fighting for all of the hostages, and as we know now, all of the hostages are free and home with the families. Aviva was a warrior, she is a warrior, she was fighting very hard for Keith, and I know he suffered a lot. I'm happy to see you healthy at home with your children, with your grandchildren, with your family, and I know you're giving back your time, your energy to other people, so thank you for that.
Thank you.
Would you like to say a few words?
Yes. I want to start by saying thank you to the First Lady, Melania Trump, and to President Trump. I want to thank you for being a caring, compassionate person and for supporting and helping Aviva. During those difficult days, and you helped her enormously in many ways. It's an honor, it's a privilege, and I'm eternally grateful, and I am very grateful to have the opportunity to say that to you in person, sitting next to you. I am eternally grateful to you and President Trump for bringing me home and for bringing all of the hostages back to their families. And I just want to mention the extraordinary mobilization in the fight for Aviva and and all of the hostages' freedom, and how it moved me deeply. And it showed us the true meaning of holding on to hope, even in the most difficult moments. Now that I have regained my freedom, and I celebrated 1 year of freedom, being released from captivity this Sunday, I have committed myself to partnering with Israel, an Israeli humanitarian aid organization, to help restore hope for others. Giving back is a crucial part of my recovery and rehabilitation process. Aviva and I just came on Sunday, from one of the world's largest refugee camps in Kenya called Kakuma. In Kakuma, Israel is providing access to clean water, hygiene, sanitation, and education to thousands of refugees that otherwise would not have any of those. The work of Israel has inspired me and given me a new sense of purpose. What a remarkable and amazing accomplishment, bringing all of the hostages back home. And we have a mission ahead of us to help others that are struggling. And this is our new mission in life. This is the road we are on. This is our journey. And I also want to end by congratulating you on the release of your movie. So much looking forward to seeing it. And so grateful for you deciding to have Aviva be a part of your movie. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Beautiful. Would you like to say something else?
I just want to say that I waited for the last hostage to come home to thank you. Because when we met, before Keith came home, you gave me so much hope, and I could feel your heart with me. And I knew how important it was for you to go back home and talk to President Trump and share your feelings. So I want to thank you for that. And I want to thank you for putting me in your special Melania film, because I was there talking to you, not for myself, but for the whole world. Bringing the hostages home was the most important thing that I could think about in this world, and now it's all over the world. The bad things that Hamas did to my husband, but I'm lucky. And thank you, Keith, for staying alive and being with me. And thank you, Melania, for helping. I really appreciate it. I want to just tell you that I decided to write a book, and it's dedicated to my grandchildren that can't hear the stories, because they are very, very hard stories to hear. And in the book, I wrote thank you to Melania, because you helped to bring Keith home, and you helped to bring the hostages home. So I'm thanking you. And in my book, everybody that will read it will understand what happens to somebody that's 64 years old, kidnapped from a home, and went through so many moments that I thought and was sure that I'm going to die. And I'm alive, and I survived to tell. So thank you very, very much. I'll always remember the meeting with you, and I'll always remember your help. Thank you from my bottom of my heart.
Thank you.
And good luck with the film.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Keith.
And we're going to make this world a better world together.
In peace. Sorry?
What did you say to the president after your meeting with Mrs. Siegel?
I gave him the books that Aviva gave me, and I explained the situation where she thought that Keith was, how he was doing. She didn't have much information, but she knew how much he was suffering because she was with him for 50 days. And I explained to him everything, and I know how hard he was working to release all of the hostages.
Has President more Ukrainian children? Has President Putin agreed to release any more Ukrainian children?
I'm working on it. And we are in the process. So I hope we have success very soon. I will keep you posted.
Why do you feel it is appropriate to use an official White House event to promote your documentary?
This is not promotion. We are here celebrating the release of the hostages of Aviva and Keith. They were in Washington, D.C. They called me. They said they would like to come over to thank me and to give hugs, and that's why we are here. It has nothing to do with promotion.
Thank you.
We are in contact.
You are contacted. Thank you.
There's a call from the survivors after Lake Maxwell moved to a high security.
Thank you, Press. Thank you, Press.
We are here celebrating the release and the life of those two incredible people, so let's honor that.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you. We're ending. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Press. Thank you.
Thank you, Press. Thank you, guys. Keep with it, guys. Thank you. Keep with it, guys. Thank you. Thank you, guys. Thank you. Can we wrap the cameras, guys? Thank you.
All right, so we want to come back here at home, and we want to take a quick break. Yeah, let's take a quick break. We'll be back here in just 2 minutes here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. Welcome back here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. I'm Nick Sturdivant. Let's get a check of our full forecast as things are warming up a little bit. And here's meteorologist Majestic Storm with our full forecast.
It's definitely still chilly, but we'll take those above average or those above freezing temperatures and continue to see that over the next few days as that rain continues to come down today. That's really going to help. That's a live camera look coming in from Kannapolis. This is our WCNC tower cam. No sunshine in the forecast today, unfortunately. We will just continue to see that cold rain scatter across the area from this morning, getting increasingly more widespread as we head later into the day. Tomorrow is going to be another cloudy day. Temperatures really going to be cool, only rising to about 40 degrees. And then Friday will be the day that we'll have to watch for those cold morning temperatures that could lead to some refreezing. Again, we are looking at scattered showers across the area today, very, very isolated by tomorrow. And then we're dry all throughout our weekend. Then a small chance for a few spotty stray showers on Tuesday. Here's our Doppler radar. You can see the heavier bands of rain to the south of Charlotte. A little bit bit of mist out there and drizzle this morning as well. This is not widespread rain, at least not quite yet. And really, even into the later half of the day, I don't think there'll be any time where it's going to be heavy downpour rain or anything in that regards. We have cloudy skies across the Carolinas with quite a bit of rain continuing to move from the southwest to the northeast. And you can see those temperatures. They're going to continue to stay above freezing, so we like that, especially if you're somebody who's ready for that snow to go away. Here's about 5 o'clock tonight, right around dinner time or so, maybe by the time you're coming home from work. Again, 40s for most of us, a little cooler as we're heading up north. But notice by 10 o'clock tonight, those temperatures for our mountain counties, they'll start to drop just a bit, just below that freezing mark. So if we still have that moisture out there, we could see a bit of snow starting to fall. It would be north of I-40, and then that rain starts to wrap up nicely for us. By the time we're waking up tomorrow, again, it's going to be chilly, but not extremely cold. We're not talking about another blast of that cold Arctic air. A cloudy Thursday ahead, but overall our temperatures tomorrow, not too impressive, only rising into the lower end of the 40s. Current temperatures, we are at 40 degrees in Lincolnton, 48 for our good friends out there in Rock Hill, and 46 right here in the Queen City. You can see the parking lot there, kind of a weird camera to have, but just wanted to give you perspective that that snow is slowly starting to melt, and with that rain today, that's really going to help. 35 is what it feels like up in Boone, so not much of a wind chill. Yesterday we topped off at 46 degrees, and today you can plan for the exact same as we're heading into the rest of our day today. Here's our hour-by-hour forecast. So this morning, really, we haven't seen much rain here in Charlotte. The little better chances as we're heading into the afternoon, really between about 3 and 5 o'clock this afternoon and into tonight. But overall, just a whole lot of cloud coverage. Up in the mountains, 41 degrees for your high temperature there in Banner Elk, 40 for our good friends there in Blowing Rock, 43 in Boone. Once we're heading south just a bit, low 40s from Hickory to Maiden, 46 there in Morganton, much of the same from Gastonia to Shelby, 45 in Statesville this afternoon, and 48 there in Lancaster. So still seeing below average temperatures by tomorrow. Look at our daytime highs, only about 40 degrees under cloudy conditions, only a small chance for a little bit of rain. And then Friday morning, I think that's going to be the bigger concern. 25 degrees heading out the door, so any moisture that didn't evaporate could quickly freeze over, especially on bridges, on and off ramps, that sort of thing, or any of that snow or ice that hasn't completely melted over. And then this weekend, look at us go. Saturday will be gorgeous sunny skies with a high of 50 degrees. And again, overnight lows tonight dropping down right around freezing. Here's our Jerry Hunt Supercenter 7-day forecast. Overall, a cloudy day, a good day to kind of hunker down. 46 degrees is all we're climbing to. We should be at 54. Overnight lows tonight, 31 degrees heading out the door tomorrow with a high of 40. And then again, this upcoming weekend, I think Saturday would be a great day to get outside, get some fresh air. It's going to be beautiful. Of course, the Super Bowl on Sunday, if you want to do anything before the game, good mix of sun and clouds with a high around 45. And then the big story next week will be the return of 60-degree temperatures, above average temperatures, kind of giving us a little bit of a taste of spring.
All right, welcome back here on Live Impact News. That was your forecast. All right, so we want to head now to Santa Clara, California. That's where Super Bowl 60 is going to happen here on NBC, WCNC Charlotte. That is Seahawks coach Mike McDonald, head coach of the Seahawks, speaking to the media right now. Let's take a listen in.
Standing on your right. Hi, Mike. When you were considering signing DeMarcus Lawrence last year, what do you remember about the context that Adden was able to provide having worked with him, and how have you seen that bear out, particularly with the way he's able to defend against the run?
It was a no-brainer. I mean, just from AD being with us the whole season, understanding how we operated, what type of people we want in our building, and really our play style, we really felt like that could help take our defense to the next level. And, man, it's paid incredible dividends, and I feel like DeMarcus would tell you this, but I feel like we're getting his best version of himself and the best version of his game as well. So it's been a win-win.
Hello, Ines Sainz from TV Azteca. You make the best game plan for the playoffs. Now, what is the biggest challenge to make the game plan for against the Patriots?
I think the biggest challenge is we have too much time. You know, yesterday was a dark day, just kind of going in and out of rabbit holes, and but I think the important part is like how well we can streamline it for our guys. make sure we're always in our wheelhouse about what we execute, what we do well. And when you have extra time, that's hard because, we're trying to find solutions and try to find answers for our guys, but sometimes you just got to shut up and let the guys go play.
Coach, right here, Buccio Rocelli for La Perrada. The last 5 games you've played, you've had 4 divisional matchups, and you've played 2 teams twice in the last 5 games. Do you think it's a bigger challenge for you to get back to planning for a team that you haven't played all season after weeks where the game plan has been so focused on teams you know so much?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. You're right. I mean, when you're playing teams multiple times, you're going off of a lot of your decision makings off how the last game went and how you anticipate the team reacting and kind of what you feel like your next move should be. Also, the teams that you're familiar with, personnel-wise, things like that. So the way we treated this game was just, hey, let's just go back to square one. Treat it like we would any other week, like we would throughout the season, and go put our best foot forward. Now, having the extra week does help, not being as familiar with the Patriots as some of the other teams we just played.
Hey, Coach, over here on your left. So you talk about process all year, and this has got to be a challenge to the typical process you have. So now that you're in it, how have you been able to stick to that process, and any notes you've already started to have for yourself for maybe the next time you get back here?
What I told our team, and look, it's funny, you're not looking at the guy that's been to the Super Bowl like 6 times. It's just, this is all of our kind of first time going through this experience. And I think that's been an edge for us throughout the whole season, is every time we've gone into a new experience together, we have principles that we want to abide by, and those are kind of like our guiding lights in terms of how we want to operate and how we want to make our decisions. But we also know that we're kind of going through it together, and we're not afraid to pivot and use different methods and things like that. So I think this is an example of that, where, the principle of the matter is, we do want to be, adhere to our process the best we can. Like today is kind of as much of a normal Wednesday as we possibly can make it, but with also the understanding of there are some things that are going to be different, and you got to be able to be flexible and pliable and be able to work through those things. And at some point you're going to get distracted, and that's okay. And look, it's about how relentless can we be coming back to center, back in, be in this moment. And up to this point, I've really loved how our team's operated.
Coach, Coach, what has impressed you most about what Mike Vrabel's been able to do with the Patriots here in his first season? And do you see any commonality between how he approaches, particularly his connection with players and the individuality of those connections to get the most out of guys?
I'm not very familiar with his coaching style in his building. I can tell you this: you can't help but respect the work that they've done and the team that they've created. I think the best compliment I can give is it's very clear that this is the vision of how he wants his football team, and I think I can say that with pretty high confidence. And they're a tough team. You can tell they're connected, which probably speaks to his coaching style. So, they can't. We have a lot of respect for how they operate for Coach Vrabel. He's done a tremendous job.
Second row. Hey, Mike, speaking of culture and intent, how have you seen your leadership shown up in the lead up to game week?
Well, it's, we've guys from different experiences. So, the Cooper Kupps, the Ernest Jones of the world have been here. They've given their perspective on how we want to approach the week. They've been great. You got guys like Leo that, necessarily haven't. And they're giving their fresh perspective as well. But I think, again, it's the same thing. Like, look, our young guys are probably looking to us on how we're going to handle, our emotions and handling, media stuff, things like that. And we take it in stride. We're loose and focused, and kind of enjoy the moment, but then, let's get back to work when we need to.
Yeah, Mike, obviously had great success with your 4-man rush on the defensive line this year. How important is what AD does up there and working with that and kind of the stunts and things like that he helps devise?
Well, AD, he definitely leads the charge with our front. Justin Hines, Chris Partridge are very much a huge part of that equation as well. I think that what our coaches do a tremendous job of is getting the buy-in of the guys that we want to play a certain way, and then just injecting a massive amount of belief to make their best traits come to life. And it's a great environment that they've created. The guys have, they're kind of an embodiment of the loose and focus, where they're messing around.
All right, so that's Seahawks head coach Mike Macdonald talking about preparations and all things Super Bowl 60. Let's come back here at home And let's go to break. We'll be back here in just 2 minutes here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. Welcome back here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. I'm Nick Sertivant. So NBC News' Tom Yamas will sit down with President Donald Trump for a one-on-one exclusive interview at the White House. So that is set to air today. Now, a portion of the wide-ranging interview will air on nightly news at 6:30 and extended will stream on Top Story with Tom Yamas on NBC News now at 7 p.m. But again, this is an exclusive interview, nightly anchor Tom Yamas with President Donald Trump. We'll send you now to an NBC special report.
Special report. Here's Tom Yamas.
And good day. We are coming on the air with breaking news from right here in Washington, D.C. I just sat down with President Trump for an exclusive interview inside the Oval Office. He made a lot of news on a variety of topics, from immigration enforcement to interest rates to the military buildup against Iran. Right from the get-go, the president made a big headline on immigration. Earlier today, the man in charge of enforcement operations in Minneapolis, Tom Homan, announced 700 agents will be leaving that city. The president now says that order came directly from him, and it may signify a larger change in tactics. Let's listen. Okay, let's drill down into the news today. That big change on immigration, 700 officers leaving Minneapolis. Did that come from you?
Yes, it did. But it didn't come from me because I just wanted to do it. We are waiting for them to release prisoners, give us the murderers that they're holding, and all of the bad people, drug dealers, all of the bad people. We allowed in our country, I say 25 million people with an open border policy for 4 years under Biden and that group, the Autopen group, I call them. We allowed to come into our country people the likes of which no country would accept, and we're getting them out. Yeah. But we've gotten a lot of them out. So crime now in Minnesota, crime now in Minneapolis is down. Crime in all cities is down. And you know why it's down? It's down because of us. It's down in Chicago by 25%, despite the fact that we are always dealing with these people, and they happen to be Democrats, that don't know anything about crime prevention.
Mr. President, speaking of Minneapolis, what did you learn?
I learned that maybe we can use a little bit of a softer touch, but you still have to be tough. These are criminals. We're dealing with really hard criminals. But look, I've called the people. I've called the governor. I've called the mayor, spoke to them, had great conversations with them, and then I see them ranting and raving out there, literally as though a call wasn't made.
We also spoke with President Trump about the Federal Reserve after he announced his latest pick to lead the agency, Kevin Warsh. The president has been vocal that he believes interest rates should be lowered, but the Fed is an independent agency that does not answer to the president.
Let's get to the Fed. Is there any doubt in your mind that interest rates are going to be lowered?
Not much.
Why? How can you say that?
I just think they're going to be lowered. I mean, they should.
Is your new Fed pick on board with that?
We're way high. Okay, we're way high in interest. We have now, with me, and with all the money, I've always been good at money. And with all the money coming into our country, we're a rich country again. We have debt, but we also have growth. And the growth will soon make the debt look very small. Because it's the greatest way, you have two ways. You can cut, and we do that anyway, and we did that. You know, we got rid of hundreds of thousands of federal workers. Yeah. And those workers went out and got themselves jobs in the free enterprise system. And you know what? That's called making America great again. We had 10 workers in the federal government for every single job. When the Democrats go in, they hire. I could right now give you the best employment numbers in history. You know what I do? Go out and hire 2 million people, put them in the federal government.
Does your new Fed
I
pick,
do the opposite.
Yeah, does your new Fed pick understand that you want him to lower interest rates?
Oh, I think he does, but I think he wants to anyway. I mean, if he came in and said, I want to raise them,
if he said that, he wouldn't have gotten the job.
He would not have gotten the job, no.
I also asked the president about the growing tensions between the U.S. and Iran. The president has sent an armada to the region and has threatened military action.
Should the supreme leader in Iran be worried right now?
I would say he should be very worried, yeah. He should be. As you know, they're negotiating with us.
I know they are, but the protesters have said, you know, where are the Americans? You promised them we would have their back. Do we still have their back?
Well, we've had their back, and look, that country's a mess right now because of us. We went in, we wiped out their nuclear.
So that's the question. If we wipe them
we
out,
have peace in the Middle East. If I didn't take out their nuclear, think of it. If we didn't take out that nuclear, we wouldn't have peace in the Middle East because the Arab countries could have never done that. They were very, very afraid of Iran. They're not afraid of Iran anymore. We wiped out those beautiful B-2 bombers. One's right over there. Those beautiful little model. Those beautiful B-2 bombers went in and they hit their target, every single bomb, and obliterated it. And because of that, they were going to have a nuclear weapon within 1 month. Within 1 month, they were going to have a nuclear weapon. That was a big threat. That they're not going to have it anymore.
But if we obliterate it, what's the deal about? I mean, if there's no more, are they trying to restart the nuclear program?
Well, I heard that they are, and if they do, and I let them know, if they do, we're going to send them right back and do their job again.
So your understanding is they tried to restart it, and that's why you're threatening force?
They tried to go back to the site. They weren't even able to get near it. There was total obliteration. But they were thinking about starting a new site in a different part of the country. We found out about it. I said, you do that, we're going to do very bad things to you.
We also want to mention, after our interview, off camera, the president called Savannah Guthrie and spoke to her, offering words of support for her and her family as they search for their mother. The president discussed a lot more, including whether he'll accept the results of the midterm elections if Republicans lose, and his surprising opinion on former President Bill Clinton. We'll have all of that tonight on Nightly News at 6:30 Eastern and an extended version on Top Story at 7 p.m. Eastern on our streaming channel, NBC News Now, and a separate portion will air during Super Bowl Sunday right here on NBC. That concludes this special report. I'm Tom Yamas. We thank you so much for watching.
All right, so that is NBC's Tom Yamas, that one-on-one sit-down with President Trump set to air this evening. All right, so let's take a quick break. We'll be back here in just 2 minutes here on Live Impact News on WCNC+. Welcome back here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. I'm Nick Sturdivant. All right, Super Bowl 60 right around the corner. You can catch it here on WCNC Charlotte. Let's take you now to Santa Clara. That's a look at Levi Stadium. I mean, that's a beautiful stadium. James, fun fact, 10 years ago, exactly 10 years ago, the Panthers played there against the Broncos for Super Bowl 50. So some painful memories there for me because the Panthers lost that Super Bowl, of course. Congratulations to the Broncos fans. That's 10 years too late for that. Congratulations. But
it still sounds like a fresh wound for you.
It is pretty fresh. I got teased for a long time. Still get teased about that Super Bowl, but whatever. So again, Super Bowl 50, Santa Clara, California. That is Sam Darnold, quarterback for the Seahawks, speaking to the media. Let's take a listen in.
To better the team and better yourself. And that's how I've kind of had that mindset. And I feel like I learned a ton from my early years with that.
Sam, to your left along the wall here, in talking to a couple of your coaches, they feel like Drew Lock, is kind of the glue a little bit in that quarterback room. And he's pushed you a lot just kind of mentally this season. What have you seen from him kind of in that regard? And does his journey, do you feel like mirror yours in some way of what it could be?
No doubt. I think, Drew is one of the more talented guys I've been around and throwing the football. Me and Drew go way back. We were roommates at the Army All-American game, and we knew each other from the Elite 11 camp and just being in the same recruiting class. So, just being able to spend time again with Drew and reconnect and just, just how close he brings everybody. He's just such a great presence to have in the locker room and in the quarterback room especially. And he's so smart. He's going to bring up things that I don't think about, that the coaches don't think about. He's a brilliant guy to be around. And again, like I said, he's super talented. So I know whenever he does get an opportunity, he's going to shine.
Sam, second row to your right. You've obviously been to a Super Bowl in a backup capacity before. What did that process teach you about handling this week in a starter capacity?
Yeah, I learned a ton. I think the biggest thing is just trying to keep the routine the same, and that was something that I was able to ask Brock a little bit about during that process of kind of, are you feeling it? Are you a little tired? And he said no. I take it one step at a time, one day at a time, and do the whole media and do, all my obligations and everything I need to do, but continue to keep the routine the same. And I think the biggest thing, too, is early in the week, like these last couple days, I was able to get a lot of sleep. And I think that's huge because as you get closer to the game, nerves and just your mind might start thinking about the game and things that can happen. And, you're going to bed a little later. You got to wake up earlier. So I think just, getting as much sleep as I possibly could these last couple days, which I did, is going to help me later on in the week.
Sam, to your left, the resurgence in the run game in recent weeks, how has that affected your performance and the overall offenses?
Yeah, I think, the way that our offensive line and our receivers, our tight ends, and our running backs have been able to communicate with each other and grow with that chemistry has only helped us a ton in the run game. And, we're going to continue to meet with each other. We meet with each other once a week on run game stuff just as players and get guys communicating in the room on certain looks that we see from the defense. And, it's just great. It's great to hear the guys communicating and gelling with each other, messing around with each other in the hallways and stuff like that in the hotel. There's a great chemistry going on, and I think that has a lot to do with kind of our success that we've been having in the run game, in the last few weeks.
Sam here on the right. You said earlier in the week, I believe it was last week, that going against this defense, it made you guys better as an offense. Your defense, the Seahawks, that is. What about that unit was so difficult for you guys to go against all year long, and how has that kind of played out in your opinion during the regular season? What made that unit so good?
Yeah, I think it's a few things, right? I think it's Coach Mike and the scheme, how the players play in that scheme, and how smart our guys are. Like the football IQ that our defensive players have. They understand in certain coverages, all right, like we might not be able to, hold our shell, as much as we can. We need to get to our spots, but in certain pressures, and maybe it's a third down, or maybe like a short yardage type situation, like we're able to hold our shell a little bit longer and wait till they snap the ball. So just those little things. And, there's just so many smart players on that defense, and I think that's what makes it the toughest is how smart they are and understanding just the little nuances that come with playing defenses and also what the quarterback's looking for. I feel like they're very smart with what we're looking for as a quarterback and the center as well with protection. So, yeah, they just do a great job, and they make it really hard on an offense.
Hey, Sam, back right. Mike was talking a lot about your resilience and that being part of the ability to overcome some of those early season turnovers. Is there anything technical, though, that you can speak to that changed, whether it was with you or the offense, in the later stages of the season?
Where are you? Sorry.
Oh, sorry, back here.
Oh, got you. Hey, what's up? Yeah, I think, the biggest thing is for me as a quarterback, like just understanding situations, the first and second down stuff, like being able to understand, like, okay, why are we calling this play? Where my checkdowns are at. Is it a certain protection where, they might eat up the back and the back might not be able to get out, and I got to, maybe throw it to a receiver or just throw it away over his head, or is the back going to be able to get out and I can look for him a little bit quicker on a check down. And then when it comes to third down, being able to, get through my progression, understand why we're calling the play, if I do get out and scramble and I can find someone open, great. If not, that's kind of the benefit of having a great defense is I've always felt like this year, especially the latter half of the season, like I always felt like I never really had to force anything. And that's a big key for me as a quarterback and a kind of a security blanket almost. Like I can feel really confident in just moving on to the next play and letting our special teams and our defense go to work, understanding that we just got to protect the football at all costs, and being able to move on as a quarterback from there.
Hi, Sam, back left.
Gotcha.
Right here.
Yep.
Frank Gore might be elected to the Hall of Fame this week. You were teammates with him in 2020. I was hoping you could reflect on what he might have brought to you as a young player, and then just quick side note, tying back here to San Francisco or Santa Clara. You're going to be using the 49ers locker room. Mm-hmm. Have you put in a request to be in the same spot there in the corner that you were in 2023?
I haven't. I haven't put in that request. That might be a good idea, though. Get some familiarity there. It was a great spot, too. It was like back corner. I had nothing on the left side. So it was a great spot. I can put my backpack there and be really comfortable. So I know EK and the equipment guys here in Seattle do a great job of giving me some space. So shout out those guys. But yeah, and then in regards to Frank, man, he's just special. He's one of those guys that you can tell right off the bat, right when you meet him, just how comfortable he is in his own skin, how confident he is as a football player. And that's what makes him so great. And again, he's such a smart guy. Just the way that he talks about football, he does it all. He does a great job, obviously, in the run game, pass protection, running routes. He's one of a kind. Definitely, even at the age and, towards the end of his career when I was playing with him, I still felt like he had a ton of juice. And, that's someone that I'll always remember playing with and sharing those memories with in the locker room.
To your right front here, Sam, against
Yep.
the wall. Back to what you said about the Jets and early in your career, with the attitude change, what was the impetus for that? Who or what led you to change your mindset on that whole?
I think it was just me, just to be honest, just not being too hard on myself. And again, I think just hearing stories about guys, just being able to move on. And like I said, that story with Jerry Rice, just like you're never going to have a perfect day out there. And I think once you understand that, truly understand that, you can go out there and just play free. And I think that really unlocked something for me mentally. And it just allowed me to play good football and be okay with things that happen out there. Obviously, you want to play your best. There is a fine line of you want to be hard on yourself, but I think you don't want to be hard on yourself in the moment. And you can be harder on yourself without getting mad at yourself, if that makes sense. But yeah, it's an attitude that I definitely learned as I've gotten a little bit older and experienced in this league.
Did you read that?
All right, so that Seahawks starting quarterback Sam Darnold talking about all things football and all things that happened this season leading up to Super Bowl 60 this Sunday. You can watch it here on WCNC Charlotte. All right, so we want to move on. We're going to come back here at home. So tonight, WCNC Charlotte is getting a first look at documents we requested months ago following a crash that injured 2 people after an overhead sign on I-77 collapsed onto their vehicle. Here's a look at pictures from that scene. So NCDOT said a drunk driver hit one of the sign structures, causing it to fall. WCNC Charlotte's Walker Lawson been digging into the story, covered it first, and taking a look at how these signs are inspected. Walker, I saw you at your desk going through those documents. What did you learn?
Yeah, well, it always takes a little bit of time to get documents like this because you really have to narrow down exactly what we're looking for. So Nate Morabito, our great investigative reporter, was able to help me out with that in the process. But basically what we learned is the inspection process for NCDOT. So they do something called LiDAR technology where they basically drive through, they don't stop, but they go through and whatever technology they're using is able to tell the structure, the status of it, how it stands. So they do those every 2 years, and then they do structural where they walk through, climb it, do the whole thing. They do those every 8 years. So we got a better look at kind of what the process looks like for NCDOT when they're looking at these. We do know now that next year all of these structures on I-77 will be inspected. So that's something also that we've learned. Can't say whether that's specifically because of that sign or whether that's because it's that time of year where they do it typically, but at least we do know that there will be all eyes on all structures this year now. It's 2026, hello. All structures this year on I-77.
And Walker, just one quick follow-up. Did they go through how they inspect the signs? Like how does that actually happen when you have obviously traffic and people out there on the roads?
Yeah, so that's kind of why they use this LiDAR technology every 2 years, because they use it in heavily congested areas, so they're not having to stop and do the whole thing. The documents kind of go through all of the things they check for. What I really was looking at when I was going through the documents were the images, seeing kind of where they were on these structures, what they were taking pictures of, which is a lot of the bolts, obviously looking at where the pieces connect from top to bottom. So every 8 years, so you don't see it that frequently. I mean, I couldn't tell you a time I've seen anyone out climbing one of the DOT signs over the interstate. So it's interesting, though, to learn that technology and to kind of see. But again, checking structures, clearly it's kind of evident that when a vehicle or a car at that magnitude's hitting these, that clearly they can fall. We just saw a report from our sister station in Kentucky that a similar instance happened in Ohio earlier this year where a sign also collapsed, so from a vehicle hitting it.
All right, Walker, thank you for that. And you can catch Walker's story at 4 and 6 o'clock. Walker, thank you.
Yeah, we'll dig through the what we found in the report before they inspected it.
Yes, sir. All right. See you soon. All right. Let's take a quick break. We'll be back here in just 2 minutes here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. Welcome back here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. I'm Nick Sertivant. We want to go to Athens, Georgia. We're happening right now. The trial in the 2001 killing of UGA law student Tara Baker in Athens enters its third day after a former classmate and friend testified on yesterday. Let's take a listen into that trial.
And at the time, when you spoke to law enforcement back in 2024, when the GBI talked to you, were you able to recall a description of that individual at that time?
Yes, the description of the individual was, probably.
Yes. I just want to make sure I'm clear. Is hearsay if he's asking him to give a description that somebody else gave him?
Mr. Bolton, do you want to clarify your question?
I think I was asking him to describe the description that he gave to law enforcement.
Okay. Any objection to that, Mr. Cruz?
That's the question, no.
All right. Go ahead, sir.
Okay.
You can continue, Mr. Owens.
The individual was, probably early 20s, black male, maybe 5'10" to 6 foot, average height, average build.
You recall anything about the individual's clothing or providing that description to law enforcement at the time?
At the time, I stated that they were wearing, I believe I told them it was a white T-shirt and jeans.
Here today, do you believe that's still the case, or are you sure?
Today, I would have difficulty to say with certainty after 25 years that that's what the person was wearing, but the person's physical description I'm certain of.
Mr. Owens, those are all the questions I have for you, sir. I am sure Mr. Cruz will have some. Thank you.
Thank you.
Cross-examination, Mr. Cruz.
Thank you so much for your time today. I don't have any questions for you, Mr. Owens.
May this witness be excused.
I'd ask that he be excused, Your Honor.
Any objection from the defense?
No, ma'am.
You are free to go, sir.
Thank you.
You may call your next witness.
Judge, can we have a brief recess?
Yes. 10 minutes?
Perfect.
All right. We're going to take one more restroom break. 10 minutes. If you'll go into the jury room, please don't discuss the case. We'll see you all shortly. Thank you.
All right, let's come back here at home. Well, let's get a check of our forecast with meteorologist Majestic Storm.
It's definitely still chilly, but we'll take those above average or those above freezing temperatures and continue to see that over the next few days as that rain continues to come down today. That's really going to help. That's a live camera look coming in from Kannapolis. This is our WCNC tower cam. No sunshine in the forecast today, unfortunately. We will just continue to see that cold rain scatter across the area from this morning, getting increasingly more widespread as we head later into the day. Tomorrow is going to be another cloudy day. Temperatures really going to be cool, only rising to about 40 degrees. And then Friday will be the day that we'll have to watch for those cold morning temperatures that could lead to some refreezing. Again, we are looking at scattered showers across the area today. Very, very isolated by tomorrow. And then we're dry all throughout our weekend. Then a small chance for a few spotty stray showers on Tuesday. Here's our Doppler radar. You can see the heavier bands of rain to the south of Charlotte. A little bit of mist out there and drizzle this morning as well. This is not widespread rain, at least not quite yet. And really, even into the later half of the day, I don't think there'll be any time where it's going to be heavy downpour rain or anything in that regards. We have cloudy skies across the Carolinas with quite a bit of rain continuing to move from the southwest to the northeast. And you can see those temperatures. They're going to continue to stay above freezing, so we like that, especially if you're somebody who's ready for that snow to go away. Here's about 5 o'clock tonight, right around dinner time or so, maybe by the time you're coming home from work. Again, 40s for most of us, a little cooler as we're heading up north. But notice by 10 o'clock tonight, those temperatures for our mountain counties, they'll start to drop just a bit, just below that freezing mark. So if we still have that moisture out there, we could see a bit of snow starting to fall. It would be north of I-40, and then that rain starts to wrap up nicely for us. By the time we're waking up tomorrow, again, it's going to be chilly, but not extremely cold. We're not talking about another blast of that cold Arctic air. A cloudy Thursday ahead, but overall our temperatures tomorrow, not too impressive, only rising into the lower end of the 40s. Current temperatures, we are at 40 degrees in Lincolnton, 48 for our good friends out there in Rock Hill, and 46 right here in the Queen City. You can see the parking lot there, kind of a weird camera to have, but just wanted to give you perspective that snow is slowly starting to melt, and with that rain today, that's really going to help. 35 is what it feels like up in Boone, so not much of a wind chill. Yesterday we topped off at 46 degrees, and today you can plan for the exact same. As we're heading into the rest of our day today, here's our hour-by-hour forecast. So this morning, really, we haven't seen much rain here in Charlotte. The little better chances as we're heading into the afternoon, really between about 3 and 5 o'clock this afternoon and into tonight. But overall, just a whole lot of cloud coverage. Up in the mountains, 41 degrees for your high temperature there in Banner Elk, 40 for our good friends there in Blowing Rock, 43 in Boone. Once we're heading south just a bit, low 40s from Hickory to Maiden, 46 there in Morganton. Much of the same from Gastonia to Shelby, 45 in Statesville this afternoon, and 48 there in Lancaster. So still seeing below average temperatures by tomorrow. Look at our daytime highs, only about 40 degrees under cloudy conditions, only a small chance for a little bit of rain. And then Friday morning, I think that's going to be the bigger concern. 25 degrees heading out the door, so any moisture that didn't evaporate could quickly freeze over, especially on bridges, on and off ramps, that sort of thing, or any of that snow or ice that hasn't completely melted over. And then this weekend, look at us go. Saturday will be gorgeous sunny skies with a high of 50 degrees. And again, overnight lows tonight dropping down right around freezing. Here's our Jerry Hunt Supercenter 7-day forecast. Overall, a cloudy day, a good day to kind of hunker down. 46 degrees is all we're climbing to. We should be at 54. Overnight lows tonight, 31 degrees heading out the door tomorrow with a high of 40. And then again, this upcoming weekend, I think Saturday would be a great day to get outside, get some fresh air. It's going to be beautiful. Of course, the Super Bowl on Sunday, if you want to do anything before the game, good mix of sun and clouds with a high around 45. And then the big story next week will be the return of 60-degree temperatures, above average temperatures, kind of giving us a little bit of a taste of spring.
All right, let's head to break. We'll be back here in just 2 minutes here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. All right, welcome back here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. I'm Nick Sturtevant, and we want to head now to Los Angeles, downtown Los Angeles, where officers are chasing a driver there. You can see it there on your screen. Let's take a listen into the coverage from NBC4 LA.
Right behind it, flashing lights are on, sirens are on. I'm counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 black and whites right behind it. You see that trail of ground units, and the sheriff's airship is over this too as it turns right. You can see that airship now flying through our shot. The helicopter got over this first. That's how we first heard about this when we were in downtown LA. I actually headed to a different story, a protest outside of City Hall. This driver sped through downtown and then got on the freeway. It was headed northbound on the 110 before getting off momentarily here in Highland Park. And I think that gave these black and whites on the ground an opportunity to get right behind it. But you see these deputies trying to keep pace with this stolen vehicle driver. Our desk is working to find out where this car was stolen from. Again, this started somewhere near downtown LA. That's where we picked it up just about 15 minutes ago. But the Sheriff's Department throwing all of their resources at this. Half a dozen ground units behind this stolen Honda. Their helicopter over this. They are not going to let this driver go. Now, I can tell you the driving has been fast. It has been dangerous. It doesn't look to me like this driver is severely impaired. So fortunately, we have not seen any near misses. But as it starts driving on these surface streets now off the freeway, you got to worry about pedestrians. You know, you see these homes, you see these yards and these sidewalks, you see that bike lane it's coming up on. If anybody is out here and they see this pursuit driver with the trail of black and whites behind it, I mean, obviously stay back. You do not want to get in this driver's way. And it's going through this intersection now, making another right turn. And it looks like we are in the Monterey Hills area now. This is going to be just south of Highland Park. Again, after we picked this up near downtown LA, followed it getting on the 110 freeway, heading north before it got off just now at Highland Park. Yeah, and you see this. Oh my goodness, it just hit that car in front of it. It was boxed in as it hit this slower traffic, and it just rammed up against that black car. There's another car trying to get around this wreck now, and you see that lead unit. You see that deputy getting out of his squad car now, trying to stop this pursuit driver. He's backing up now. Annabelle, I got you loud and clear. And Annabelle, if you can hear me, we lost your audio, but you can see deputies getting out of their vehicles now trying to stop this driver that hit the vehicle in front of it. You saw that driver of the other car, the innocent bystander who was hit here, trying to make moves to get out. They're swarming this car now, and it looks like there is somebody in the back seat. They've got the driver down on the ground. They are pulling somebody out of the back seat. There was a passenger. Wow, if you watched that happen live, you saw this pursuit driver, it's the dark gray Honda Accord, hit that black SUV in front of it before these deputies came up. There was another white car that got away. That car was not hit, but this driver then started backing up toward the deputies. They've got the passenger detained. The driver is still down on the ground, and it did not look like a major accident, but he definitely hit that car in front of it. That SUV now stopped in front of this pursuit terminated with a crash.
All right, so it looks like that chase, well, not even looks like, that chase has ended there in Los Angeles. This is in the Montecito Heights area of LA. James, you have the flight tracker up?
I do have the flight tracker up. So we are just to the north of the downtown area. You can see the police helicopters, the media helicopters. We're just off Interstate 5. We're just to the east of that. So we can see all of them flying off here, right here along this road, Huntington Drive, where we just saw them pull multiple people out of that reportedly stolen vehicle, Nick.
Yeah, we counted 4, I believe, and it looks like, trying to see if there's anybody else, but it looks like as we counted 4, it ended as that car just slowly bumped into that SUV in the front. You see the law enforcement presence right there, and obviously traffic is stalled there on the highway. As multiple people, I think this is one of the first times we covered the chase where multiple people were in the car. Let's go back to our coverage now. NBC 4 LA.
Somebody in front of him. Driver was just taken into custody. Passenger was detained as well. They're going to work to clear this vehicle now, and we are going to keep you posted if we learn anything about who that driver was and where this investigation is headed now. Did not look like a major crash. I don't believe the other driver needs any kind of medical attention on scene. This is Julia Dangan, News Chopper 4. Thank you for streaming.
All right, so that chase has concluded there in Los Angeles. Multiple people taken into custody. Let's come back here at home and let's take a break. We'll be back here in just 2 minutes here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. Welcome back here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. I'm Nick Serderman. We want to go now to Raleigh, where the sentencing hearing continues in Raleigh for a mass shooting suspect, or defendant, Austin Thompson. Let's take a listen in.
Martin to a position of cover. Would you like me to stop there?
Yeah, so you what does that mean? I mean, do you drag him out of the way?
Yes, Officer Martin had already begun a maneuver to move him out of the way. As he was moving pretty quickly, and to that officer's credit of offering extreme aid under horrible circumstances and danger to his own life, he had stepped out in the middle of the battlefield, if you will, and began removing Officer Clark from that situation. As he's doing that, I'm watching, trying to figure out, where is this actually coming from to pinpoint a volume of fire, and asking if anybody was able to locate a spot at the same time.
Yeah. So you get how many? Do you know how many shots came from that area?
I know that there was a minimum of one. It sounded like two prior to the volume of our gunfire beginning up.
Okay.
The report sounded different than what our firearms typically are.
You guys have moved Officer Clark out of the way. What are you doing next?
So we moved back behind the first blue building. That was the last cover of area that we knew that we had. Actually, concealment would be a better term for it. It was a metal building that, as I determined later on, a pattern of buckshot struck just beside my head at that particular location. And there was also evidence of where that had come from in a direction by looking at it. As I'm talking with Officer Clark and Officer Martin, I had ordered Officer Martin to immediately place a tourniquet on the leg, pull the pant leg up, determine if we had any other wounds. Asked Officer Clark at one point, do you have any other injuries? If I recall correctly, he said, I don't believe so. I remember this vividly by conversation, along with recorded efforts on that, about the request of a second tourniquet.
Okay. And so ultimately, Officer Clark is escorted to, it looks like a highway patrol officer. He's escorted away from that scene and is taken to the hospital. When he's gone, what happens there at that scene with those sheds?
So there was a realization that the one that we had was probably a very good vantage point to be able to observe him, but it was not a very safe location to observe. I began moving resources. If you're facing where the suspect was eventually located and where, I'm not sure in prior discussions, the actual crime scene of his location for the fire position was. But if you're facing that direction, I maneuvered people off to the right-hand side. So if you're using a clock position, we would have, as Officer Clark, in a 6 o'clock position, been looking towards the suspect in a 12 o'clock position. Moved resources off to the 3 o'clock position, which would have been to the right. So we had an area of fire that we realized would be safe for us to not have a concern of accidentally striking another. I also was very concerned about the other people that might be inhabiting the house directly behind where he was, and tried to get angles of fire directed away from the citizens that would most likely be in that area.
Okay. So once you start moving people around, what are you doing next? Who are you communicating with?
A combination of different efforts. The first one was SHP Air. They were a great benefit to us, but I also wanted to be able to hear a little bit more acutely of where other items of interest may be, or suspects may be. I did want to keep them in the air for their opportunities.
When you say, sorry for interrupting, but SHP Air, you're referring
helicopters.
To highway patrol helicopters?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And I think we could hear that in the body cam.
Absolutely.
You wanted them to leave so you guys could hear better.
I wasn't really wanting them out of the area, more so a higher vantage point for better acoustical quality.
Gotcha. Once that happens, what actions do you take with regards to this shed where you believe the shooter could be?
Okay. I immediately started asking for electronic resources, drones and robots. Drones primarily because we were able to get an aerial view, other opportunities and technological advancements they have for tracking people. And I knew that I could also use that as a disposable piece of equipment to identify whether or not the threat is deceased. On numerous other instances I've been involved when typically somebody will commit suicide immediately following the assault pattern that they had done. So I wanted to be able to have an observation without putting somebody's face back right there.
You wanted to see what was inside the shed.
That is correct.
Without putting a person in harm's way. Is that
yes, sir.
And you also mentioned robots. Can you describe what you mean by that?
So there's numerous types that we use. I wanted a smaller robot in the initial onset of it because of agility, for lack of better terms, of being able to get in there quickly. I knew that the resources we had for one of the later robots that we eventually did use was going to take more time, and time was of the essence on this to either identify we still have the threat contained, or we need to expand this perimeter out greater and be concerned that he's killing other people. We're making efforts to do so. I asked for heavy armor vehicles. We had 2 armored vehicles that eventually came into the location and were able to offer an opportunity for observation with moderately safe ballistic protection.
Okay. So once you made these requests and got these things in place, were you able to ultimately get a look either through one of these means or technological devices, get a look into that shed?
Yes, I was.
And can you describe what you guys were able to see when you did that?
The first encounter, if I remember the chronological order of events correctly on it, was the drone that we were using. One of the unmanned aircraft was able to get an observation of the defendant in the location of the second structure, oriented in a direction towards us, with a firearm.
And when you say with a firearm, were you able to determine whether the defendant was holding the firearm or if it was?
All right, so it looks like that shot froze, but let's take a break. We'll be back here in just 2 minutes here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. All right, welcome back here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. I'm Nick Sturtevant. Let's head back to Raleigh, where the sentencing hearing continues for mass shooting defendant Austin Thompson. Let's take a listen in.
To try to get that firearm removed from that area.
Yes, we did. We used one of the robots with an arm on it initially to try and remove it, and then to try and pin the firearm down so he could not recover it.
What eventually happened in regards to either the removal of the firearm or the removal of the defendant from that particular area?
In terms of the, would you like me to walk through the string of events to the actual removal of the other gear that he had on?
Yes, yes.
Okay. And I don't know the exact amount of time that occurred from the time of the ambush to the time of removal of all items. It was a significant period of time. The negotiations were constantly going on. By this point, we had moved into one of the heavy armored vehicles known as a Bearcat. I was able to see directly what the defendant was doing. I had requested a bomb squad robot, and that came from training experience using that particular robot to manipulate other items, doors, and use other devices to gain entry and compliance. And that appeared to be the safest avenue of concluding what we needed to have done. In addition to that, because of past training experience in dealing with individuals that have done these same crimes, there was a concern of explosives and other devices. And the events that occurred prior to this and the number of victims that occurred prior to this led me to believe he would fall along those same lines of having multiple areas of danger, threat, and methods of killing. He had a book bag on. Numerous times we were asking him to remove the book bag, and he refused to comply. I wanted to use the heavier robot that we use to remove that book bag. There was still no compliance from him on that. Would you like to move into the escalation of force?
Yeah, well, so you tried to get the book bag off, and I believe you mentioned this long gun that he was manipulating at some point during this interaction. Did you all notice or discover any other firearms?
Yes. With the introduction of the bigger robot, he retrieved a pistol. He pointed the pistol at the robot. He would make motions as if he were firing the gun, but the gun was not firing, which led me to believe that he was attempting to fire the gun, either with his a failure in the firearm or a physical injury that occurred because of the attempt at self-inflicted gunshot wound. He was not able to pull the trigger on the firearm. He was definitively pointing the firearm at the robot. I had moved resources away from there, so the decision was that I didn't have the right at that point to use lethal force on him, and it would not have been the best policy or the best opportunity for us to do that.
Okay. So what did you do after there was this non-compliance that you just mentioned? What did you guys do next?
Looked at the other ways that we could gain compliance. Some of those measures ruled themselves out. For instance, electronic control devices and such as that didn't lend themselves to it. So we came across the belief that using a 40 millimeter less lethal firearm would be the best action for that, and that shoots a projectile that is not designed to kill, but is designed to offer pain compliance.
And then what happened? Were you able to use those devices?
Yes. After the first impact with the 40 millimeter round, we gained some compliance. He attempted to start removing the book bag, which made me believe and realize and understand and know at this point he understood what the request was. It wasn't until the infliction of pain he started to comply.
And then what happened after that? Were you able to just tell us what happened next?
After the second round of a 40 millimeter impacting him, he took the book bag off, and then we made a decision on using the robot just in case there was a tripwire or another possibility of an injury to us, to move the defendant as a person away from all the other objects interior of that location.
Okay. And how did you do that?
Use the arm on the robot to grab a hold of his body and drag him.
And was that successful?
It was.
Okay. But once where did the robot take the defendant?
He was removed, and this is coming from a recollection, approximately 15 feet or so away from his bag and from the firearms that we were able to observe immediately there, to a location where we were able to make an approach with some of our personnel. Would you like me to elaborate on that or pause there?
Yeah. So you drag him away from these implements and these things that are in the shed.
Yes.
And again, where in the shed? Just back right corner?
Yes.
If you're facing the shed, he's kind of in the back right corner at this point?
That's correct. If you're facing the shed, the last known location for the ambush was in the back right corner, which would be approximately a 1 o'clock position deep inside the shed. We removed him to the 9 o'clock position of that shed.
Okay. Once he's removed, what happens next?
We had already requested some very special medics that we carry on our high-risk incidents, TAC meds. They were already on scene with us. They were standing by in the armored vehicle for us once we gave the clear on him. So once the robot removed him to a sufficient distance away from the firearms that we felt comfortable with maintaining good cover and control on him, we sent some ballistic shield operators as well as other personnel on foot directly to him, make an initial assessment to make sure that he didn't have a threat that was going to be a danger to anybody else. Immediately asked for the medics to come up and begin their evaluation series.
And were they able to do that?
They were.
Soon thereafter, was the defendant transported by EMS?
Yes.
And I assume after that, what did your unit do after the defendant had been transported to the hospital?
We maintained a good portion of the equipment that we had used as levels of force at the scene, location right there.
All right, let's come back here at home and let's go to break. We'll be back here in just 2 minutes here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus.
Good afternoon, everyone. Vanessa Rufus here in the Live Impact News studio, taking over for Nick Sturdivant. We're going to kick things off this hour with weather impact discussion. As we've all noticed, we got some rain falling around the area. That's probably a nice change from the other types of precipitation we've been seeing over the past couple of weeks. And we're kind of thawing out a bit, which I think is pretty good considering it was looking pretty slushy around there and it was difficult to get around on the roadways. That said, we always have to think about how the cold and the thawing out can impact our homes and businesses. So we wanted to chat about that with meteorologist Rachel Goche with the Insurance Institute for Business and Home Safety. She's joining us right now. Rachel, thanks so much for your time.
Yeah, thanks for having me today.
Well, yeah, let's go ahead and talk about it. So, of course, we talked about how it is feeling a little bit warmer than we've been dealing with the last several days. We've heard from folks certainly, and we've heard even from, different municipalities around the area. They're dealing with, pipes that were bursting, so they're trying to repair those. What should folks who own homes or own businesses be thinking about right now when it comes to pipe safety or any other type of, impact that they might be seeing from the cold and thaw out period?
Yeah, absolutely. I would say first things first, make sure you didn't suffer any damage from last weekend's snow and cold. We certainly had a bit of a 1-2 punch with several inches of snow, and luckily we didn't have as much of the ice this time, but then we had that prolonged cold as well. So I would say the first thing you could do is just sort of do a visual inspection of both the outside and the inside of your house. Make sure you don't have a leaky roof. We often see leaky roofs develop after we have these big winter weather events. Things like icicles, like you see here behind me. A lot of homes around Charlotte and the Charlotte area had icicles hanging off the soffits or the edges of the roof. That could be a sign that you have an ice dam in your roof. That can lead to a leaky roof as well. So first things first is, again, just sort of make sure that you haven't suffered any damage from last week's weekend storm. And then there's a few things you can do to start prepping around your house for the next burst of cold that we have.
So you mentioned a phrase which certainly caught my ears, if you will, like an ice dam. I've definitely heard of icicles, which you pointed out behind you. What's an ice dam?
Yeah, so that's when you have a difference in temperature across the surface of your roof. Normally that means that the upper part of your roof is going to be warmer. That could be from warmer air circulating inside your attic and making its way out. And then the bottom portion of your roof is going to be colder. So you often see those icicles forming kind of around the edges of the roof or underneath soffits. You can even see icicles forming on things like siding. So that's, a potential sign of an ice dam, or at least something to keep an eye on as well. There's not a ton that you can do about it. The main thing you want to do is just be on the lookout for it. Again, keep in mind it could lead to a leaky roof, and if any of that water makes its way inside your home, you could be looking at water damage. So just keep a keen eye out when we have situations like this, and just do a visual inspection around the house.
Now, we pointed out the fact that things are going to actually get quite warm, I guess, compared to where we were over the next couple of days. It looked like, our weather impact team was forecasting highs maybe in the 60s on some days. I suspect this might be a good time for folks to go around and maybe, if they haven't already done this, do a survey of their home and business. What would you recommend folks be on the lookout for? And I know we've talked about pipes a lot, but if there's anything about maybe, winterizing, if they haven't done that, keeping the heat in, because we know that energy conservation is really important, especially when it gets really cold, which we know it'll do once again at some point.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we're in our fake spring, like we like to call it. It's still early February. We still have a lot of winter left. We're likely to get at least a couple of more cold snaps, maybe even some strong ones. So ahead of the next incoming cold, when it is warm and it's not so painful to get outside and do things around your house, make sure the gutters are clear. As soon as this latest storm was over, I went out and I pushed all the snow away from the edge of my gutters where they drain out. And I made sure that none of that pine straw kind of got pushed up, clogging them. I actually had some chunks of ice to pull out of my gutters as well. You want to make sure that water flows freely, off your roof, into the gutters, and down the downspouts and away from your house. So just make sure, gutters are clear and free of debris. They're not clogged up. If you didn't get a chance to insulate those outdoor water spigots, there's some really inexpensive fixes you can do. The foam covers, which Home Depot and all the other stores were out of I think everyone ran out to get those during this last storm, but I actually got some pretty inexpensive ones online that were just, it was kind of like a cloth bag that you put over your spigot, and you Velcro it around there. You want to protect those from breaking as well. And then, of course, the bigger concern is often those pipes inside your home, exterior walls, those places that are less heated, under bathroom cabinets, under bathroom sinks. Make sure those are good and insulated ahead of the next storm, whether you're using foam insulation, a do-it-yourself type fix like towels or duct tape, but just make sure those are ready ahead of the next incoming cold.
Now, I know we talked a lot about structures. I personally am a big plant person, so I have a nice little garden where I live, and I like to baby that. So I'm kind of curious if you have any tips for winterizing when it comes to like your yard or your garden, or even if it's just like the irrigation system. I don't know, just like things that folks should be thinking about on that front.
Yeah, I always make sure I disconnect my hose from the spigot, and if it's going to be really cold, make sure you drain all the water out of the hose. Bring it in the garage for a few days, because when that freezes, that can cause cracks in your hose. So when spring comes and you are ready to get out there with those plants, that could be an issue as well. And yeah, I would obviously bring the plants in when we have the extreme cold. Trying my hardest to keep my hibiscus plant alive through the end of winter. We'll see how that goes, but that is just looking at trees around your home as well. Trim any overhanging branches back. We were lucky enough to escape that big threat of ice week before last, when we thought we were looking at maybe up to an inch of ice in some spots. We escaped that this time, but if you have overhanging branches over your roof and we do see ice, those can snap, hit your roof. Again, that all leads to damage. We say that the roof is the first line of defense at IBHS, so protecting that at all costs can prevent other situations from escalating as well, as far as that roof damage goes.
Now, when I'm thinking about winter weather impacts, the other thing that I think about, I was recently texting with a friend of mine this week, and we were supposed to have lunch, but we weren't able to because the HVAC system in her house ended up going out over this past weekend when we had all the snow. So she was like trying to coordinate that, so we couldn't have lunch. But it got me thinking, how many folks are dealing with this right now? And at that time, it was super cold. We were in single digits in some places with those lows. Do you have any suggestions for keeping that heating system working?
Yeah, there are probably many people. I know some of our coworkers here are dealing with that situation with those HVAC systems going out. First and foremost, if you're not going to be home during one of these winter storms, just make sure your thermostat is set at a minimum of 55 degrees, not just to keep your HVAC working properly, but that's kind of the coolest temperature you would want your house to be at in order to keep those pipes warm enough inside your house. So that's kind of a 2-for-1 there. The other thing is just getting it to run efficiently. So things like regular maintenance, maybe call an HVAC specialist out, get a tune-up if you need one, just make sure it's in good condition ahead of the next storm. And then we also suggest sealing up, gaps and cracks, especially around windows and doors. So that'll not only keep the cold out of your house, but that's really going to seal things up, keep that warm air in, and that all factors into keeping that HVAC, running as efficiently as it can to heat your home.
We wrap things up here. I think it's kind of cool to also just highlight in general what y'all do over there at the Insurance Institute for Business and Home Safety, because I didn't mention this, but we here at WCNC Charlotte know this because we've done lots of stories with y'all. Y'all are local to us. You're just down the road in Chester County, which is super cool to have such a close resource. But y'all do all sorts of research and looking into basically keeping you and your structures, if you will, safe in all sorts of different kinds of weather. So I guess for folks who aren't familiar with the work that you do over there, just give us a little peek behind the curtain.
Yeah, absolutely. The Charlotte area is very lucky to have a world-class facility. We're down in Richburg, South Carolina, just about 30 minutes south of Charlotte. We have a team of world-class scientists, engineers, construction professionals, all sorts of people. We build full-scale structures, which means 1- and 2-story homes and commercial buildings, and we put them in our 6-story wind tunnel that has 130 fans. We can simulate up to a Category 3 hurricane hurricane, and we can also create wind-driven rain as well. So we can really recreate one of the few places in the world that can recreate a real-life hurricane. We also simulate wind-driven fire like you saw in LA at the beginning of 2025. We have a hail lab where we manufacture realistic hailstones. We shoot them at roofing materials, siding materials, basically everything we can do to crash test your home or business, find out how it stands up to these different elements, and we have our scientists here working to improve the way homes and businesses are built so we can minimize damage and minimize disruption for home and business owners.
Yeah, it's really interesting and just kind of cool to see some of the work that y'all have been doing. I know I did some stories with you guys when it comes to hurricanes and also just in general, like wind safety and you know, just the dynamics of wind, which I thought was super interesting. Thank you so much, Rachel. We appreciate your time. This was a great chat.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me.
All right, take care and come back and join us anytime. Folks, we
see ya.
All right, see ya. And yeah, we do want to check in with weather impacts on what we can expect. We kind of alluded to some of the temperature changes we'll expect over the next few days. Here's meteorologist Majestic Storm with the forecast.
It's definitely still chilly, but we'll take those above average or those above freezing temperatures and continue to see that over the next few days as that rain continues to come down today. That's really going to help. That's a live camera look coming in from Kannapolis. This is our WCNC tower cam. No sunshine in the forecast today, unfortunately. We will just continue to see that cold rain scatter across the area from this morning, getting increasingly more widespread as we head later into the day. Tomorrow is going to be another cloudy day. Temperatures really going to be cool, only rising to about 40 degrees. And then Friday will be the day that we'll have to watch for those cold morning temperatures that could lead to some refreezing. Again, we are looking at scattered showers across the area today, very, very isolated by tomorrow. And then we're dry all throughout our weekend. Then a small chance for a few spotty stray showers on Tuesday. Here's our Doppler radar. You can see the heavier bands of rain to the south of Charlotte. A little bit of mist out there and drizzle this morning as well. This is not widespread rain, at least not quite yet. And really even into the later half of the day, I don't think there'll be any time where it's going to be heavy downpour rain or anything in that regards. We have cloudy skies across the Carolinas with quite a bit of rain continuing to move from the southwest to the northeast. And you can see those temperatures. They're going to continue to stay above freezing. So we like that, especially if you're somebody who's ready for that snow to go away. Here's about 5 o'clock tonight, right around dinner time or so, maybe by the time you're coming home from work. Again, 40s for most of us, a little cooler as we're heading up north. But notice by 10 o'clock tonight, those temperatures for our mountain counties, they'll start to drop just a bit, just below that freezing mark. So if we still have that moisture out there, we could see a bit of snow starting to fall. It would be north of I-40, and then that rain starts to wrap up nicely for us. By the time we're waking up tomorrow, again, it's going to be chilly, but not extremely cold. We're not talking about another blast of that cold Arctic air. A cloudy Thursday ahead, but overall our temperatures tomorrow, not too impressive, only rising into the lower end of the 40s. Current temperatures, we are at 40 degrees in Lincolnton, 48 for our good friends out there in Rock Hill, and 46 right here in the Queen City. You can see the parking lot there, kind of a weird camera to have, but just wanted to give you perspective that that snow is slowly starting to melt, and with that rain today, that's really going to help. 35 is what it feels like up in Boone, so not much of a wind chill. Yesterday we topped off at 46 degrees, and today you can plan for the exact same as we're heading into the rest of our day today. Here's our hour-by-hour forecast. So this morning, really, we haven't seen much rain here in Charlotte. The little better chances as we're heading into the afternoon, really between about 3 and 5 o'clock this afternoon and into tonight. But overall, just a whole lot of cloud coverage. Up in the mountains, 41 degrees for your high temperature there in Banner Elk, 40 for our good friends there in Blowing Rock, 43 in Boone. Once we're heading south just a bit, low 40s from Hickory to Maiden, 46 there in Morganton, much of the same from Gastonia to Shelby, 45 in Statesville this afternoon, and 48 there in Lancaster. So still seeing below average temperatures by tomorrow. Look at our daytime highs, only about 40 degrees under cloudy conditions, only a small chance for a little bit of rain. And then Friday morning, I think that That's going to be the bigger concern. 25 degrees heading out the door, so any moisture that didn't evaporate could quickly freeze over, especially on bridges, on and off ramps, that sort of thing, or any of that snow or ice that hasn't completely melted over. And then this weekend, look at us go. Saturday will be gorgeous sunny skies with a high of 50 degrees. And again, overnight lows tonight dropping down right around freezing. Here's our Jerry Hunt Supercenter 7-day forecast. Overall, a cloudy day, a good day to kind of hunker down. 46 degrees is all we're climbing to. We should be at 54. Overnight lows tonight, 31 degrees heading out the door tomorrow with a high of 40. And then again, this upcoming weekend, I think Saturday would be a great day to get outside, get some fresh air. It's going to be beautiful. Of course, the Super Bowl on Sunday, if you want to do anything before the game, good mix of sun and clouds with a high around 45. And then the big story next week will be the return of 60-degree temperatures, above average temperatures, kind of giving us a little bit of a taste of spring.
All right, and there you have it. With that, we want to turn to a breaking update on the school front, and this will get a lot of attention, we think, from parents once they learn this news, if they haven't already gotten the message. CMS is back to a normal and regular school and district schedule for tomorrow. So this is after a lot of changes with that calendar in the last couple of weeks because of all of the winter weather we've been getting. But essentially, as we've seen, they've closely monitored the conditions. They feel like things are safe enough. CMS, once again, on a regular school and district schedule tomorrow, Thursday. We'll take a quick break. We'll be right back with a story that we're following here locally on the crime front. Stay with us here on Live Impact. Welcome back here to Live Impact News. Vanessa Rufus here. So we mentioned before we went to break, we want to touch on a local headline here, one that's really got neighbors stirring and kind of curious to see what prompted this police response. But essentially, shutdown of Fair Marketplace happened today near the plaza, and this was after a massive police and SWAT response. You're looking at some video of the scene from our crews there, and you could see rather large police response. There's some crime scene tape out. And WCNC Charlotte's Anna King has been looking into the situation, but also some video that's surfacing here showing all of these units flooding the area. Anna's joining us right now. What can you tell us about this situation? What have you found out about the police response?
Yeah, there are so many questions here tonight, and I think that's the big thing. A lot of residents here just want to know what happened, if they're safe, and if they should be looking more into this or just concerned at all. So we actually spent the day speaking to a neighbor here who caught it all on video. So we do have her video from her camera that we will be showing in the later shows. But she did walk us through what she saw just early this morning. Just so much commotion, and they basically pretty much everyone here just has so many questions on what's happening. We haven't gotten much information from CMPD just yet. They are still asking that if anyone does have video like the video the lady provided us, or just any information on I guess what took place before they got there. They are asking residents to reach out to them, but we did manage to speak to just a few neighbors to kind of get information ourselves on what took place as well. In speaking with neighbors, we are learning that, or we're hearing that the initial call came after after the alleged suspect here was found walking with a firearm. And so a lot of residents here, or some residents here, got concerned after that. And so they called CMPD. But again, we are waiting for CMPD to reach out and confirm as much information as they can right now. I know this is an ongoing investigation, so we're waiting to learn a little bit more here right now.
In the meantime, Anna, what can you tell us about the actual neighborhood? Is it purely residential? Is it mixed, development, apartment complexes, homes? What is it? What kind of neighborhood is it, in the sense of, the structure of it, if you will?
Oh, yeah, this is purely residential. So the area we were in were only apartment complexes, but it looks like the area across the street might be townhomes or just residential homes. And so this is a purely residential area. So definitely a scary situation for everyone around here, I'm assuming, just to wake up and see a police presence like that. The one lady we spoke with described just SWAT coming in and seeing multiple just officials coming in, and just the fear. I think it's really the fear of the unknown here. So just not knowing what's going on would keep anyone up, really.
Yeah, I mean, we were looking at some of the earlier video that y'all shot out there. A lot of officers, from what we could see from that video. What is it looking like at this hour? Do you still have that large presence, or are you seeing mostly crime scene and detectives at this point?
Well, things are clear here right now. Okay. It's pretty quiet. I think a lot of the neighbors here are still. It's just mainly whispers of people trying to piece together what went on this morning. But yeah, right now things are clear and it's quiet.
Okay. All right. Well, we look forward to more of your reporting tonight. It looks like we'll have you at 5 o'clock and at 6 o'clock here on WCNC Plus. And you mentioned you'll have that video from the neighbor too, which will be really interesting to see. Mm-hmm. All right. Anna, thank you so much. And we'll see you later. We'll go ahead and take a quick break, folks. We'll be back in 2 minutes. Thanks so much for sticking with us here on Live Impact News. All right, folks, welcome back here, Live Impact News Studio. I'm Vanessa Rufus. I want to talk about the ongoing dialogue that we will see regarding funding. As we told you yesterday here on Live Impact and also on our evening newscast on WCNC Plus, the president has signed this temporary funding bill to keep the government open after a partial shutdown. However, on the table, some discussions that will yet to take place for Department of Homeland Security. And we know that there was a big push, particularly amongst Democratic lawmakers, to separate funding for DHS from the rest of the funding for the government. So if I remember correctly, it's 2 weeks that DHS will be funded, at which point they'll have to have some sort of dialogue over what Democrats are saying they want included, which are guardrails in protocols that are included for ICE, as ICE has been doing these operations in different cities around the nation. We actually heard from South Carolina Senator Lindsey Graham in the Oval Office right after that signing took place of the bill. So we want to share some of that with you here on Live Impact.
When it comes to ICE, this is an ask from Senator Schumer. Requiring search warrants for ICE and immigration officials.
I haven't even thought of it. Mr. President, I'm not thinking about search warrants. Yeah, Lindsey Graham is going to answer this.
No, makes no sense. If we have to get a search warrant to get 15 million people out, Schumer's telling me he doesn't want them out. It's the most ridiculous idea. They do have some good ideas, I think. But I've got a better idea. It's your idea. In sanctuary cities. On immigration, I know what I'm talking about. I've got the scars to prove it. Y'all are playing like Biden didn't exist. Y'all won't tell the American people about Lake and Riley. It's a one-sided debate. For 4 years, our border was obliterated. They let them come in by the tens of millions, and they want to go back that way. We're not going. So, Mr. President, stick to your guns. If you got reforms that make ICE better, more professional, talk to me. But you should embrace what I'm suggesting. As long as 12 states have sanctuary policy, they'll keep coming. Unfortunately, you won't be president forever. These magnets of illegal immigration have to go. There is no upside to sanctuary city unless you're a complete radical nut job. The cops hate it, fraud around sanctuary cities, and you're going to get more illegal immigration. We're going to have to debate. I've been trying to solve this problem, but what the Democrats are doing is they're not getting to the underlying problem. It's not Stephen Miller. It's not Chrissy Noem. It's not me. It's not you. It's policies that have been on the books that don't work. So if you want to debate on how to solve this problem, show up next week. I'm going to take President Trump's idea that it's time to end the insane policy of sanctuary cities. We're going to take it to the floor and we're going to vote, and people in November are going to get to see who they trust to keep the border secure. Schumer or Trump? I'm with Trump.
Mr. President.
All right, so there you have it. Once again, Republican South Carolina Senator Lindsey Graham making his opinions known on this funding cliff, if you will, for Department of Homeland Security coming in about 2 weeks. I want to turn to a live feed we're seeing out of Raleigh, North Carolina, not too far from us here in the Charlotte area, as we continue to see the sentencing hearing underway for Austin Thompson. He is being sentenced for his role in a mass shooting from several years ago in which 5 people died. And as we mentioned before, this is going to be a multi-day hearing where we're hearing testimony, and at which point, after several days of this, the judge will render their sentence. Let's listen in for a bit.
At his 15 minutes in the mornings, and then after they were dropped off, then I drove on to work for the day.
Okay. And at that time, schedule-wise, when would you typically get home from work?
Around 5:30, 5:40.
And back in 2022, what was Alan doing for work?
Was a handyman.
Did he have regular hours, or was he kind of gone most of the day?
It was flexible, but usually he was gone during the day, Monday through Friday, typically.
And so what was the routine, kind of the daily routine with the comings and goings from home?
They were pretty self-sufficient as far as they would get up and get themselves ready for school. We didn't have to hound them at all. And then I would be getting ready after they did. And like I mentioned, I would get in the car and he could get his time in for school, and then I would go to work until 5, and then I would go right home. And if I wasn't going right home, I would stop at like the grocery store or get my hair cut or something like that, like a regular type of errands.
Okay. And did they ever have any incidents or get into any trouble during these times where they were at home alone?
Nope, they were really good kids. They were at home, at school, at Sunday school. They, as far as I know, they never even handed in a late assignment ever to school.
So I want, what time, I think you may have mentioned this, but what time typically, if you know, did they get home from school?
They got home around 3:10, I believe.
And that's when they would get off the bus?
Yes, and then they would walk home.
So I want to take you to the day that this all happened. What did you have any plans that afternoon or after work?
Yes, right from work. I ran an errand maybe to get an ice cream or something, and then I was getting my hair colored at 6. And that normally takes an hour. And then I would have gone home after that.
Okay. At what point that evening did you realize that there was something going on?
When her boyfriend turned on the television, we were in the kitchen. She was applying the hair dye, and he turned on the TV, and all of a sudden there's Hedingham shooter. Okay. So we ran and saw the news and saw the back area of Hedingham, which is where we lived at the time.
And what did you do once you saw this information?
I tried to call them, and neither of them picked up, and then I tried to text both of them, and I didn't hear back. And then, if I remember correctly, I immediately called Alan after that.
So what time of day, this would have been after work, after your errand?
Yeah, my hair appointment was not until 6 o'clock, okay. So I don't know, maybe 6:15, 6:30-ish. Okay. They turned on the TV, okay. And then we knew something terrible was happening.
And when you reached out to Alan, were you able to actually connect with him?
Yeah, I did connect with him, and of course it was stressful. I remember him saying that he got a flat tire, and he had a regular SUV, and because he got a flat tire, he had to empty out all of his tools to get to the spare tire, put it on, then he had to put all of his tools back. And so that took him, that's how I got home before he did.
And so by the time you're getting home, what is the Hedingham neighborhood like at that point? Did you notice anything
there was
the ordinary?
Yeah, there was a lot of police cars, and I was able to drive into the neighborhood on the firehouse side, which is Skycrest, I believe.
And when you got home, do you typically pull in the garage, or do you park up the street?
Yes, I normally pull in the garage, except there was a police officer on. When you're looking at the garage, the police officer vehicle with the lights on was on the left.
Okay. So tell us about getting into your home that afternoon.
I parked very quickly across from our driveway. I parked across the street on the neighbor's side of the street, and I opened the garage door, the big door, to get in, and then we normally go through that door to get in the house every day. And that door was locked, which was very unusual. And I kept banging on the door, and then I didn't get a response, so I ran out of the garage and right onto it was a very easy U-turn, and ran up onto the porch.
And were you able to get inside?
Yes, I went to hit the doorbell, and then I was going to bang on the door, and the door was opened a little bit, and I was able to just walk into the house.
And then when you got inside, what happened? Where did you go first once you got inside?
I just walked in the house, you know, and of course my head's on a swivel because all this stuff is going on, and I didn't see them in the kitchen. I glanced past their bedrooms, and then I walked into our master bedroom, which, as everyone knows, that's where I found his body on the bathroom floor.
And we've heard about that and its impact on you from others that heard it. Once you were outside of the home, what do you remember?
I remember running and screaming, and I went out the same front door that I came in, and I remember saying, "They killed him, they killed him." And then I remember running back in because I had to go to the bathroom because there was so much going on. And then I remember, as soon as I flushed the toilet, I remember a female officer knocking on the bathroom door saying, "You have to come out now." And I'm like, "Well, I'm trying to clean up, I'm trying to change my clothes and stuff." And she's like, "No, you have to come out now." So I remember throwing on a nightshirt, and she walked out with me, and she sat me in the rocking chair, which was in the driveway.
And you were taken for some medical treatment at that point?
Yeah, I had a panic attack, and I remember when someone walked me to the ambulance that was open, and I remember saying, "Oh, you got me on the first stick, thank you." And that's all I remember. The next thing I remember is waking up in the hospital bed, and Alan was sitting next to me, and all I could see was just police officers.
When you...
All right, folks, once again, that is the ongoing sentencing hearing for Austin Thompson, the man who is charged with that mass shooting in Raleigh from several years ago, happened inside a neighborhood. As we mentioned, there will be several days of testimony expected here, and then a sentence rendered by the judge at the end of it. We'll take a quick break. We'll be back in 2 minutes, either to rejoin with this feed or actually another court case we're following out of Atlanta. We'll see which feeds remain with us in 2 minutes. Hi, folks. Welcome back. We're following some breaking news here in the Live Impact News studio. Getting word of a vehicle fire that's closing some lanes right now on I-85. You can see some of the delays towards the right-hand side of your screen, that pop of red heading in the northbound direction of 85. We are hearing, according to DOT, 2 lanes are closed on the right-hand side before you get to exit 58, which is Concord Parkway. And it does seem as though this will be a scene at least for the next, I'd say, 45 minutes to an hour, although the timing that we get from DOT can sometimes shift as the scene develops or even starts to clear on its own. So that said, we are working to get more information on this. If we get some eyes on this as well, we'll bring that visual to you here on Live Impact. In the meantime, an area to avoid. Once again, this is I-85 northbound near mile marker 56 heading towards exit 58, which is Concord Parkway. And this is obviously there in the Concord area in Cabarrus County. And with that, we do want to turn back to the court cases that we've been following. As we mentioned, we've got our eyes on 2 of them right now. I want to take you out to Atlanta, where we've got a cold case murder, which is now going to trial. This is actually stemming from a 2001 killing of a UGA law student, Tara Baker. We're in the 3rd day now of this trial. The suspect in this case was actually charged in 2024. So relatively recently compared to when the actual crime took place. Let's listen in right now to some of the testimony.
Exactly sure exactly what Mr. Cruz is intending to tender. So if he needs some time to produce it, because I just don't understand exactly what it is. I think I do, but I haven't seen it. So at this time, I would object. Once that document is produced, I'm happy to take a look.
Sure. May I produce it to the state, Your Honor? Is that fine?
Yes, and I will hold off ruling on that particular request until that process is done. You may continue your cross-examination.
Yes, ma'am. May I ask this? Can it be conditionally admitted based on me? Because the reason I asked that, the witness will be gone. So I just want to make sure that it can be conditionally admitted on the basis of
I don't think conditionally admitted is actually an appropriate way to handle it.
That's fair.
I have certainly heard the testimony. We can have it played back if we need to do that. I'll let you ask any other questions you need to.
Yes, ma'am.
To make sure you've asked everything you need to. I'll let the state do the same thing. And then I'll hear from both sides after the document that you're talking about is produced to the state.
Yes, ma'am. Ms. Cordes, you received a subpoena from our office?
I don't believe I did.
Okay. Thank you so much. I don't have any other questions for you. May I approach you for
Yes.
the computer? Okay, excellent.
And any redirect from the state? All right. May this witness be excused.
Thank you.
All right. Mr. Cruz, the state is asking for this witness to be excused. Any objection?
No objection.
All right. You are free to go. Thank you. You may call your next witness.
All right, and while we're waiting, folks, for the next witness to be called to the stand here, we'll just kind of recap what we know about this case. Like we mentioned, this is stemming back to 2001 in Athens, Georgia, and the death of UGA law student Tara Baker. There was obviously a long time where there was not a suspect. We mentioned this was a cold case situation. And then they were eventually able in 2023
All right.
able to get some new evidence.
Recess. Don't talk about the case. We'll see you in a minute. Thank you.
Okay, sorry, just wanted to listen in. It looks like they are taking a 5-minute recess. Okay. Anyways, this will be something that we follow over the next few days here. As we mentioned, this is just day 3, and we'll take a quick break here on Live Impact. We'll return in 2 minutes. As we mentioned, we've got a couple court cases we're watching. That's one of them. The other one is out of Raleigh with that mass shooting suspect who is now going through sentencing at this point. This is a case stemming back from 2022, Austin Thompson. So after a quick break here, we'll return with that. All right. Welcome back to Live Impact News. Vanessa Rufus here. I know we were mentioning we're following a couple court cases happening in the Raleigh area and in Atlanta. Both of those, it looks like, have gone to recess at this point. So we actually have another live feed we want to bring to you right now. On the political front, we've got a Senate Judiciary Subcommittee holding a hearing over the alleged social services aid fraud in Minnesota. We know that this is one of the main topics that sparked the additional immigration enforcement operations and ICE presence in Minneapolis, Minnesota. Let's go ahead and listen in.
Extraordinary rights and important responsibilities. Responsibilities are a precondition to those rights. That's why our forefathers created strict rules for naturalizing new citizens. On the front end, those who wish to become Americans must prove they are persons of good moral character and loyal to our country and attached to our Constitution. On the back end, we have the ability to revoke the citizenship of those who lie or deceive us in the process of securing it. We've seen those standards of citizenship be debased. Look at the stories of just the past few months in Minneapolis, case after case, naturalized U.S. citizens behaving in ways that show beyond any shadow of a doubt that they were never fit for citizenship in the first place. In Minnesota, naturalized citizens defrauded our government for billions of dollars. One individual stole almost $1.7 million from a program intended for poor children. Just today, a naturalized citizen in Massachusetts pled guilty to stealing over $1 million from our welfare programs. Something has to change. It's why I've introduced the SCAM Act to expand and accelerate our ability to denaturalize people who should have never become citizens in the first place. If you use your new citizenship to commit massive welfare fraud, aggravated felonies, or espionage, or join drug cartels or terrorist organizations, you were never fit to be called an American at all. I encourage my colleagues on this committee to support that important legislation. Now, Mr. Weissman, you are the co-CEO of Public Citizen, is that correct?
Co-president, yes,
okay.
sir.
President, okay. Is welfare and grant fraud in the national public interest?
I'm sorry.
Is welfare and grant fraud in the national public interest?
It is 100% contrary to the national interest.
Okay, but taking it on would also be in the national interest, correct?
Taking it on is absolutely in the American interest.
Is fraud prevention is fraud prevention racist?
Fraud prevention is not racist, no.
Okay. Are current fraud prevention efforts by the Trump administration in Minnesota racist?
No.
Okay. Are deportations racist?
Are deportations racist? It depends. They can be racist,
okay.
For sure.
Is ICE racist?
I think the practices of ICE right now are abhorrent and should be abhorrent, exactly as you said, for American values. I think the practices of ICE right now are...
But ICE itself, the organization, is racist?
The enforcing immigration and customs laws per se is not racist. What ICE actually is doing, I believe, can fairly be characterized as racist. Yes, sir.
All right. I asked this because we did a little bit of digging into Public Citizen and found two things. One is you're funded by George Soros, correct?
The Open Society Foundation is one of our funders, yes.
And you call just about everything you don't like racist.
That is not true, but...
Okay, well, I'm going to give you a few examples.
Sure.
On December 11th, 2019, Public Citizen tweeted that the banking sector as a whole is racist. On August 17th, 2021, Public Citizen sent in a press release that algorithmic racism was a major problem and that we need to start creating anti-racist algorithms. On December 23rd, 2020, Public Citizen tweeted that our healthcare system is a racist abomination. On April 7th, 2023, Public Citizen tweeted that expelling 2 Tennessee state reps for violating the legislature's rule was racism. On April 15th, 2021, Public Citizen tweeted that law enforcement in this country has been overrun by racism. On June 25th, 2020, Public Citizen tweeted, "Racism is the reason D.C. is not a state." On January 15th, 2019, Public Citizen tweeted that asking about citizenship status on the census was racist. On August 24th, 2020, Public Citizen tweeted, "Defund our racist, hyper-militarized, murderous American police force." On July 10th, 2020, Public Citizen tweeted that law and order is a racist dog whistle. Do you stand by these statements?
Well,
all right, folks, we're going to go ahead and get to this breaking news. On the sports front, we've got our sports director, Nick Carboni, joining us right now in the Live Impact News studio as we are on the eve of the NBA trade deadline, but Hornets are making some moves.
Yeah, and I think the biggest headline here, Vanessa, is for once and for the first time in a long time, the Hornets are buyers at the trade deadline. Of course, they had to sell off some assets to gain some assets, but I think in the long run, it's a plus move for the Hornets. So let's break it down. According to ESPN's Shams Charania, the Bulls sending point guard Kobe White, veteran guard Mike Conley to the Hornets. The Hornets in return sending reserve guard Colin Sexton, who's been very good this year, as well as 3 second-round picks, and center Ousmane Dieng, I'll get to that in a moment, back to Chicago. But at face value, the Hornets have won 7 straight games. They are nearing a play-in seed that's 7 through 10 in the NBA with a little more than 30 games to go. They clearly feel like they can play postseason basketball and get to the playoffs, whether that's getting a top 6 seed or getting to the play-in and playing their way in. And Kobe White has been starting for the Bulls for several years. He scores 18 points a game. He's a scoring guard. He's from North Carolina. He played for the Tar Heels. I remember covering him at a high school all-star game here in Charlotte 6 years ago. So this is a player that they feel can elevate them in the minutes LaMelo Ball does not play for the most part. And we know that on back-to-backs, the Hornets have preferred to keep LaMelo coming off the bench in one of those games. Kobe White is fully capable of starting and scoring and providing offense when LaMelo is not on the floor, which sometimes had been a problem as good as Colin Sexton had been in stretches. So, you know, I think the headline here is they're buyers. They believe that they can make a push, and we'll see what happens. The deadline is still about 24 hours away, so there are more moves that could be made.
And actually, as you were just walking here into the studio, it looks like we did get a response from the president of basketball operations, Jeff Peterson, about Mason Plumlee as well.
Yeah, so Mason Plumlee, so, part of this trade was Charlotte sending Ousmane Dieng to the Bulls. Well, Ousmane Dieng doesn't play for the Charlotte Hornets. He plays for the Oklahoma City Thunder. So prior to making this swap with the Bulls, the Hornets sent Plumlee to Oklahoma City for Dieng, one of the second-round picks. They packaged that all up and sent it to Chicago. Dieng never gets on a plane to Charlotte. He goes straight to Chicago, and we'll see what they want to do with him there. I haven't seen what Peterson had mentioned, though, but that's kind of who is Dieng? That's who Dieng is, and he's now in Chicago.
So the other thing I guess I'm kind of curious about is what could happen after this point, because you did mention that we still have, tomorrow's the deadline, so there's still some time to make more moves.
I mean, they could always add a big man, although Moussa Diabate has been such a great story. He's part of a starting lineup that has been the best in the NBA all year long, but now Plumlee's gone, so that, opens the door for another, rotational center. I don't think they're going to make the big move for like Giannis Antetokounmpo this trade deadline, right? But it's cool to be in the conversation.
Yeah.
I don't think they're there yet. I think this is a good measured move that says we believe we can get to the playoffs this season, and then next season off of that, we believe we can make a deep run. So I think the big move for the Charlotte Hornets probably won't come until this offseason or next trade deadline, but this is certainly a step in a different direction than we've seen the better part of the last decade, where it's, hey, these guys have all played well together, everything's going great, but we need to recoup some assets. So we're not going to be very good the second half of the season after the All-Star break, but we're going to get some assets for the future. This is a clear move to say we can go right now and make the play-in and potentially the playoffs.
Now, I mean, I know one of the chatterings that I've heard lately too is like Miles Bridges, and there seems to be a lot of interest, but it also feels like, you're kind of busting up the team.
Yeah, and that's been what I've been wondering what they're going to do with this team the last couple of weeks, because they've been so good. And Miles Bridges is part of the core of that. He's part of that starting lineup that's only lost one time when they're out on the floor together to start a game. It does seem like that Miles Bridges trade talk, which we've heard for years now, has cooled down for this deadline period, perhaps in the offseason. But I think they want to keep this starting lineup together right now and see where they can go.
Yeah. And then interestingly enough, the other one that caught my eye, getting the Ball brothers together. I saw that one
Sometimes
maybe
the internet gets the trades that it wants. It would make sense. It would have made sense to bring in Lonzo Ball perhaps as a backup guard, but now they've got one with Kobe White, who's going to start and back up.
Very interesting stuff. I know you're working on a lot too for our news here.
Greg Olson. We got Hall of Fame for Luke Kuechly, Rookie of the Year for T-Mac, Olympics coming up, Daytona coming up. up. So this is just a part of it, but it's fun and it's a positive light that we're talking about the Hornets in lately.
I love it. I mean, their games are just so fun to watch.
Yeah.
I was at that matinee, the one that got
Didn't
pushed
sound
back
like it
on-
was half full.
on-
Yeah.
That's what I'm